Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast. For those of you who are not aware, the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast is a weekly, episodic podcast where two, sometimes three, good friends get together and discuss all things NHL and their implications in the fantasy hockey universe. I am one of your hosts, or the host, as always, Nick Costu, along with my good pal, Kyle Nice. Kyle, how are you doing on this Sunday morning for a change? A nice Sunday morning.
The beer has been replaced with coffee, and it's not so bad. You know, I thought it'd be a little harder, but it's not so bad. And just a quick note, we've been here chatting for about an hour on all kinds of hockey topics.
Yeah.
And now I got nothing to say to you, Nick. I'm out.
We're burnt out. Yeah, this coffee is the only thing keeping me going. And that you talking about us conversing, that will let me introduce our guest, as he always does. It's become tradition, as tradition dictates now, for these first episodes where we do the season preview. Mikey Robson joining us in the hot seat for this inaugural episode of Season 4. How are you doing today, Mike?
Good. I'm glad to be sitting in the hot seat to deliver freezing cold takes.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, hopefully I can do a little bit better than last year and provide some interesting perspectives on the upcoming season.
You do always, you're a little more ambitious with your takes, that's for sure, to say the least.
Which we appreciate.
Kyle and I play it pretty close to the chest, you know, but you come here swinging. So we expect the same energy as always. And I mean,
Minnesota number 1.
Yeah, exactly. So for all of you out there, this will be our season preview. As always, we'll go through each division, rank them 1 to 8. It's nice with the Kraken in this year. We actually have 8 teams in each division, so it's looking really nice. And we'll get into all that: additions, subtractions, leading goal scorers, fantasy, maybe guys to look out for, all that jazz. But I know you want to start, Kyle, on a note we shared last week. We were yerping Team Canada's projected roster, right, which was conducted by our friend of the show, Chris Johnson.
Right.
And we were yerping this guy. He had Marner on the first line, or what was all this? Oh, this was ridiculous.
Let me fill in Mike, because he may not have heard this, but. So we know Chris Johnson. He's a pretty reputable name in the industry, and he was one of the guys who came out with a forefronting list of Team Canada's projected roster. It was like the one getting shared the most, perhaps. And I was just looking at this roster, and I scratched in my head. I was like, you know what? How can someone consider this guy a fucking stalwart of the industry when, I kid you not, Mike, he had his defense lined up, and you know how he puts an extra on each for forward and defense. His extra on defense was Bowen Byram. With the talent in this country, and you're going to pick a guy who's a rookie who hasn't proven shit, who'll be playing second pairing minutes. What are you thinking with that pick? I'm sorry. How can you sit down, research this topic, and say Bowen Byram is going to have such a monstrous rookie season behind Makar, behind Taves, to be an extra on Team Canada? What is that? What is that about?
Yeah, so that's news to me and very surprising. Team Canada has had some decent success with bringing young defensemen to the Olympics. I don't know if Bowen Byram and Drew Doughty, though, are comparable in that aspect.
Especially not in this stage of the game. Like maybe in 2 or 3 years, I'd say, okay, maybe there's something there. But the guy hasn't played more than 8 games. It's crazy.
I mean, long-winded way of saying, I've always known Chris Johnson as this very reputable hockey man. He comes in, he gives his Hockey Night in Canada segment, very informative, seems like a polite guy. I could have beers with the guy, And you come here last week, yerping this guy.
I was.
And now, because of this roster, and now, because you follow the SDPN, and I know, friend of the show, Rick Magombo, and he follows the SDPN.
Yeah.
And I've recently got into it. He gets a show.
He gets
a whole show with his name on it, his face on it, his name on it. This guy's gone from insider to instant celebrity overnight. And it happened, and it was the same week we were chirping him.
It was.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So yeah, that news there. So the Steve Dangle podcast has turned into the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. and their big idea was to have the Chris Johnson hockey show, whatever it's called, to be their main staple underneath them, under their umbrella. And I'm just like, fuck, every time this guy comes on, I love their show, by the way, just to get that out of the way. I love their show. I think they have great content, especially during the year. Really like down to earth, feels like regular guys. I think it's a cool thing to listen to. But every time Chris Johnson's on the show, it sucks. Like I'm just like, this guy is just such a. I don't dislike him. I don't want to be rude or anything like that. But he's a good insider. I think he does his job really well. But him as a personality and a hockey podcast kind of personality, I don't feel the vibe there, and I will not be listening to the show.
I have to say, as far as Steve Dangle goes, you have to respect how he turned his enthusiasm and fandom for a team into a podcast, into now a podcast network. But part of what makes their podcast enjoyable is the energy that they bring.
Yeah.
And my experience with Chris Johnson is that he's very, here are the facts, here's what's going on. Not a lot of energy. I'll compare him to Elliot Friedman, his former coworker at Sportsnet, who also is an insider and does the 31 Thoughts podcast with Jeff Merrick. Elliot brings a certain levity and humor to the delivery of the information, whereas Chris Johnson has always been, here are the facts, here's what's going on, and not so much the energy, which I think you need to make a podcast work. Again, I don't know all that much about the show, but I wouldn't expect it to be very entertaining.
No, you're so right. If you're going to call a show the Steve Dangle podcast, whoever is Steve Dangle better be a charismatic, full of energy, Energizer Bunny, And the reality is Chris Johnson, like you said, aptly, is not that. So to call it the Chris Johnston show, I was just shocked. And I listened to the first episode.
Oh, you did?
I did, and exactly Michael's point. Right. It's basically him lecturing to us. It's like it's like being in Poli-Sci 1000 back in school and just listening to a lecture at night. It's like and this Julian McKenzie, he's asking him, like, he can't say anything because it's Chris Johnson's show. All Julian's doing is just asking questions.
Yes, exactly.
They're pre-planned, of course, because Chris Johnson before the show is probably just like, okay, I got some news on the Sabres, I got some news on the Leafs and the Kraken, and so he asks him his 4 questions. Johnson goes off, rants about what's going on with Eichel and his surgery and all that shit, and then it's 30 minutes long and it's done.
So I mean, and sometimes when he does try to show the little flair, the bit of personality, it's very fabricated. It's like this guy's. You feel like he's forcing fucking. Just I don't know. It sucks. Well, and then like what you said, how you describe that show is super disappointing because that's what 31 Thoughts is. And Friedman and Merrick do a fantastic job on that pod. It's honestly one of the best shows out there. And I don't know if you guys have heard the interviews from Media Day in the last week. They've been interviewing like star players in Toronto from the NHL media tour. They're amazing interviews. They're like really candid. They're like a step below Spit and Chicklets interviews. Like they get into good stories and what's going on. They ask the tough questions. Like the one with Pierre-Luc Dubois was super interesting. They're like, hey, what happened last year? They really got into it. So I really recommend you watch those interviews or listen to them because it's just like, this is exactly what we need in this industry, essentially.
Yep, I've never listened to that podcast.
Please do.
So
Please do.
That'll be one I add to my bucket list for sure.
And speaking of what we need in this industry, we're moving into the ESPN and TNT era. And one of the things people were excited about is let's get some more energy into hockey coverage because it had been the same for so long. And so it's interesting that now we're starting that off with the Chris Johnson podcast. Yeah.
That's why we're here, boys. That's where Rink Moose comes into play. The next Hockey Night in Canada host right here.
Somebody needs to take over from Ron at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is he still employed?
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I think there were rumors of him getting the shove out the door, but it never happened. Anyways,
before we move on, what do you think? You've started listening to the Dangle show.
Yeah.
What do you think of it? It's been a bad sample size, admittedly, but
it's good. I don't want to slander people publicly. That's not what I'm about.
we just did so much.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I guess the gloves are off, but I don't know. Like it's a good show. There's something to be said about when you get a group together like a Julian McKenzie and a Chris Johnson, like you can tell they just met a year ago or a few months ago. They don't have a magic, you know?
Yeah.
You can tell when these three friends sit down that these are childhood friends who've known each other for a very long time. So let alone their hockey knowledge is there, and then you add in the fact they're childhood friends, and they just have they have something that you just can't. They have a magic among them that you just can't. You can't just create in a day, you know,
right.
Almost like what we have. So it's like a chemistry. Even though I still there's still takes of theirs I disagree with. There's still things I don't think they know a lot or other teams. You know, these are still Leaf fans. You know, these are still Leaf fans. We detract ourselves from that when neither of us are a Leaf fan. You know,
right?
I think
you're fully off the board now. This is
This is
a big moment.
So like honestly,
last year you were on board.
No, I'm still slightly on board. I said it last year. If Morgan Riley is shipped out, I am off.
You have a foot in the kiddie pool.
That's it for me. That's it. I'm literally on the edge of jumping off the cliff. I'm done if Riley's gone. But anyway, so they still come in with a Leaf bias. I still don't like if I pick their brains apart on the San Jose Sharks or the Anaheim Ducks. I don't know what they'll tell me, and their prospect pools and all that. So, and you know, they're still like Steve. You're there for Steve, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like guys like Jesse Blake, they don't know as much, you know, so to speak. You know, he's more the producer.
He's the producer.
They're taking advantage. Like he brings in all the technical stuff. He plays a critical role.
And he brings up stats.
And he brings up, sure. He puts stuff up on the board and shit. Yeah. He plays a role. He plays his role, but he's not necessarily the guy I want to listen to, you know?
No. Sure.
So, yeah, those are just some early thoughts through, 4 episodes I've listened to.
Yeah, keep it going, especially when the last few, there's been no content, so they've just been kind of just talking about their new setup, essentially. Yeah. So, yeah, we're all I was talking to Mike earlier about this. We're starving for content. I know you don't give a shit about these preseason games, but I've just been, on a content hunt.
There's a lot of games, just
Are the Rangers playing today?
Everyone's playing today. There's 10 games.
We're back.
There's 10 games tonight. The Kraken are playing their first game tonight.
Oh my god!
That's crazy. So
the Rangers are playing. Can you confirm that with me?
Rangers are playing. Yeah. They're hosting the Islanders. So
I hope Laffy plays.
Every night from here on out, there's going to be several games on. And they're all there. So
you don't know the rabbit hole I've gotten into looking for Laffy content from this summer. I'm
sure.
Where is this guy training? What's he eating? What is this guy's daily routine? And I got was a 2-minute interview saying, "So Laffy, what was your summer like?" "Oh yeah, I skated 2-3 times a week. Spent some time in the gym. These are things that a young player needs to do." And I was like, "Fuck, are you serious, man?" It's so sad. Meanwhile, Byfield, he's a bit more open about these things. You see his Instagram. He's training with McDavid. He's with BioSteel. He's got Gary Roberts in his corner. He's taking shirtless photos at the workout field. It's like, oh man, this guy's putting in the work. I wonder what my favorite players are doing. It's like shit. Speaking on that, well, maybe we'll get into it later. I wanted to ask you about Rossi because we're on the young player topic, but Minnesota's coming up pretty soon, so
yeah.
You hold off on that, Mike. You hold off. I know he's a dog on raw meat right now with this, which is a good way to describe Rossi, I suppose, too.
Okay, so without further ado, we'll hop into things here. We'll start with the Central Division, the new look Central Division, which of course now is 8 teams as opposed to 7. And includes the Arizona Coyotes, which I'll lead off with as my 8th seed. This is undisputably one of the worst teams in the league. I think that goes without question. I think they made a lot of. I'm not going to criticize them. I think they've made a lot of savvy moves to get draft capital, to take some bad contracts in exchange for that draft capital. And I think it's fair to say they're finally doing the rebuild right. You know, there's been a lot of criticism, a lot of vitriol in that market with the management and a lot of the behind the closed doors stories that have been coming out of there. But I think from a hockey perspective, I think they finally have gotten things on the rail. I think that new GM is a good hockey guy. And I think slowly these prospects are starting to accumulate. Like they got some good hauls over the offseason. We went over them last episode. And you traded Connor Garland, and you take some bad contracts in Vancouver, and you land a first round pick.
Yeah.
So like little moves like that. And I think the plan long term is suck the next 2 years. Keep getting these prospects.
Shane.
Austin Matthews is a free agent in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
And sorry, doorbell. Someone seems to be here at the studio. But no, don't let that interrupt things. I mean, I just think, that's the long-term vision here. Get enough prospects, get Shane Wright, get a foundation, and then when he's a free agent, that's enough of a reason for him to come. So that's my take on Arizona, the 8th seed.
Mm-hmm. I'll jump in really quick next. They're also my 8th seed. No shocker there. It's so hard with this team to really kind of pick out positives, but I'll try my best. I think Jacob Chychrun is a great young defenseman. I think he led the league in actually defenseman goals last year, which is awesome. Super sketchy guy to pick in fantasy because who's he passing to and who's he getting the puck from this year? So that one I'll have on my radar, but he's a good young defenseman. I could actually see them maybe considering moving for a big haul at the deadline if they want to go that route. They got Connor Timmins from Colorado, which I think is a really good ad. I think, if they had to get rid of Kemper, fine, but they got a seriously good haul for him. Timmins will be on that first pairing, I believe, with Chychrun. I think that's going to be good. But other than that, for positives, like there's not much else to look at there. And they're really banking on these 2022 and 23 draft working for them. Now, they've got the picks. They have a boatload of picks. They've got like 5 second-rounders in the next draft and like 2 or 3 firsts. So step one of the rebuild, the teardown is complete. Then now they have to draft well. I mean, if I were to invest any money into anything right now, forget coaching, forget the new French guy they pulled in. I think you just got to invest everything in scouting and development. Everything has to go there. Because while they're doing the teardown right, I think they're at danger of being like that Edmonton where they have so many young players but nothing surrounding them, and it could get ugly that way, and that could stall the rebuild unless they get it right. Well, even Edmonton, they got fucking awesome players too earlier on, and they didn't do much with it. So, it's a terrible time to be an Arizona fan, but hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, so no surprise, I have them 8th as well. It's really interesting because in a draft class that was loaded with good defensive prospects, they took Gunther, who's a forward. Mm-hmm. And we've got, if they knew the rebuild was coming, they've got another couple of years to pick up forwards like Shane Wright, Connor Bedard. And if you fall a little bit, there are still like Brad Lambert is projected to go 4th. And that's still a
awesome player.
Completely good haul. Mm-hmm. And that's realistically where they're projected to pick if everything goes wrong, is 3rd or 4th. Mm-hmm. So I think moving forward, they'll be able to draft and develop some forwards. They're not going to do well this year. They lost one of their best assets, which was a good goaltending tandem in Kemper and Ranta. They traded away their captain to Vancouver, and in exchange took on depth players on bad contracts who were fringe NHLers at their worst and like 4th liners at their best.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Shane Wright is probably what they're looking at this year, and if not, one of the other talented forwards who will be available in the draft. It's tough that their rebuild is coming around a time where there's a lot of uncertainty around the team and the arena, because I heard, I think a week or 2 ago, that they're in Glendale, that their arena deal has fallen through and that they're going to have to look for a new home. And I think, if we want to keep hockey in the desert, we may see Shane Wright fall to them in the draft because Gary Bettman will want to keep his little pet project alive. But yeah, I like Connor Timmins. I like Chychrun. I think Gostisbehere could have a good comeback season, but he's not what people thought he would be. And otherwise, there's not a lot to be excited about in Arizona this year.
I'll give you one more thing to be excited. This might be a hot take. I think those new jerseys they're rolling out with the Coyote, whatever it is, are fucking top 3 jersey in the league. I love those jerseys.
The one thing to be excited about.
Yeah. Oh my God, those are nice. Like I would almost buy one just because it's so cool. But obviously.
I haven't seen these.
If Shane Wright gets to be an Arizona Coyote, the only saving grace will be that would be a sweet jersey to buy.
Yeah, that logo.
That's a great logo.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a nice design.
The white Kachina is amazing.
Yeah. That's probably the best away jersey in the league. It's just so fresh.
Yeah, well, yeah, that, and of course, fan favorite of yours, Barrett Hayton, will play a more bigger role this year, second line center. So
likely,
so we'll see about that, and then I should have pointed this out, and Michael brought it up. The goaltending tandem, it's out the window. I mean, there's two teams in the league with the team just screams tank because the goalies they're putting in net. And it's Arizona and Buffalo, and this of course Carter Hutton and Josef Koronar. It's like you're asking for losses, so we got to move on. That's enough time on Arizona.
Too much.
Number 7, yeah,
probably.
No, number 7. We're gonna have to be quicker here.
We'll be here a while, boys.
Yeah, number 7. I got work to do. Number 7. Smashville Predators for me. I have Nashville landing here. They just seem to be a middling group. I think this is the year where that postseason streak comes to an end. They've just, frankly, I just think the way they saw things moving forward, them being a competitor, hasn't come to fruition. I think Ryan Johansson they thought would be a guy they could lean on, and he hasn't been that. Matt Duchene they signed to that lucrative deal, has not been that. You got little pieces here. Forsberg is still a star. This Eli Tolvanen had a nice breakout year last year. Hopefully a guy like Philip Tomasino can have that kind of year this year. Maybe Cody Glass. There's enough interesting little things here that I'm still going to follow this team because I am a Tomasino fan. I saw him live in Kingston. Love the player. And then Cody Glass. I think this guy was kind of given a not the fair shake in Vegas. We talked about that last episode. I just think he was in a wrong team at a wrong time. That organization's not really developing right now. They're into winning now. You saw that with the Alec Martinez signing, the Pietrangelo signing. They're just going for it, and their prospects are kind of getting shoved to the side. So I think this will be a nice chance for him. Looks like he's the third line center there opening night. But unfortunately, I just don't think the talent's there. It's kind of the end of an era with Pekka Rinne gone. So I just see this being as the end of an era of playoff success in Smashville. So that's it for me.
Yeah, good. So I've got at my number 7, I might have a little bit of a hot take here. It's going to be the St. Louis Blues.
Wow, already?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Here we go. Let's go. And it's not like... It's because I have a lot more faith in some of the teams I had. Like, I'm not going to shit on the Blues by any means here. I think there's a lot of turbulence with the Tarasenko situation. He wants out, and it looks like he's going to be, being a good participant regardless as of right now. They got a guy named Pavel Buchnevich from New York, who, I'll be honest, I don't know how he put up those points. I saw a ton of New York games last year. He's not very good. I'm just going to come out and say it. He's not a very good player. He'd be a great third liner for sure, but don't expect him to do anything more than that. I think there's forward depth is solid, but there's a lot of mediocrity built into there. Is David Perron a first liner? I'm not sure about that. Robert Thomas leaves a lot to be desired. His development is another interesting little curve that could be analyzed. He's definitely not the guy that we thought he would be as of yet. And then I look at the defense, and I'm just not I'm not sold on these guys. Guys like Falk and Scandella, Parayko. I hear from all reports that he's in the decline in a large way. And then you have the worst character goaltending in the entire NHL. And I see this out of all teams as a team that is fading into irrelevance, and that starts this year for me.
Yeah, I'm not terribly high on the Blues, but I'm even lower on the Preds, and for a lot of the reasons that you just talked about, Kyle, with the Blues, is it's depth, right? We're in a league where parity is more present than ever, and the Predators' top 6 is good when they perform, but they just don't perform. So you need the depth to step in and fill that, and they don't really have guys in the bottom of the lineup that I have a lot of faith in. Cody Glass, you just talked about prospects who don't quite pan out the way that you expect them to, and hopefully with a fresh start in Nashville, he can find his game again, but He hasn't shown us yet that he is a bona fide player in the NHL. And so it will be exciting to see what he can do. On defense, I think losing Ryan Ellis is a big loss. I think Ryan Ellis, both character and skill, is a great player for them, and losing him is going to make them a worse team. And then in net, they have a decent tandem, but I don't think it's enough to make up for a lack of scoring.
Yeah, no, I didn't even mention the Ellis factor. I mean, that's a huge detraction. They were not one of the winners in that deal. That's for sure. I think Philadelphia getting Ellis was among the biggest winners in that trade. So that's a great point. They're going to miss him for sure. Number 6 for me, the Chicago Blackhawks. I know a lot of people have this team, as a team maybe getting into relevancy again because of the Fleury acquisition, but and Seth Jones, but frankly, I don't buy it. I don't know where Jonathan Toews' game's at. You don't just leave the game for a whole year and then come back and just pick the game up like that. I don't know if that's going to go well. Your number 2 center's a Tyler Johnson, a guy they didn't even want in Tampa Bay. Kirby Dach's fantastic, and I'm sure it'll be another development year for him, and he'll be great, and he'll be a fantasy stud to look out for sure. But other than that, I mean, the defense, even with Seth Jones, is still very lacking, arguably the worst in the league. I mean, your top 4 includes Jake McCabe, Riley Stillman, and Connor Murphy. It's just not going to get the job done. And I don't care how good Flower is. I think a lot of last year. I mean, don't forget, Vegas is one of the most structured, defensive, strongest teams in the league. So, they covered up a lot of Marc-Andre's blemishes as far as I'm concerned. So I just think I don't think Fleury's going to have the same defense to lean on. I think that's going to ultimately hurt them, and I don't think Jonathan Toews' game is where it was 2 or 3 years ago. So that I just don't have enough faith. I think they'll have a good year. They'll be a competitive team. They'll be a fun team. Who doesn't want to watch a team when the faces of your team are Patrick Kane and Marc-Andre Fleury? That's just a fun team. They're fun again.
Yeah.
They're a fun team, and they're gonna light teams up, and they're gonna play high scoring games, and Fleury's gonna do acrobatic shit every night. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. But it's not gonna result in a playoff team. So there you go.
Fair enough. Okay. So number 6, I'll go with Nashville. I'm not going to creep them up the board too much. I look at the team and I see a team with sneaky upside. The old guard, which represents kind of the failing stars that you mentioned in Johansson and Duchesne, they're still there. However, Forsberg is still great, and I really like their young talent. I think of Tolvanen, Tomasino, and Glass, I think you can expect those. Of the 3, at least 2 of them will be bona fide top 6 players this year. And Tomasino in particular, all the experts I've been kind of following on Twitter, they're all saying this guy's poised for breakout. Like, of all the prospects out there, they're like under the radar guy who's like really gonna crush this year. This guy's the guy. They're like, he should be up there with near the Zegras territory, near the Byfield kind of echelon. Like, he did really great in the AHL last year. So I think sneaky upside there. And then, Saros, when he came back from injury last year, was pretty fantastic. I know he won a lot of teams' fantasy weeks alone. And I think despite the departure of Ellis, they still have a decent blue line. They've still got Yossi and Ekholm. I like Borokop. I think he's a funny, good character guy back there. He'll sub in. So I'm not saying they're going to be good. I just think there's going to be sneaky upside there. Some players will surprise, and they'll be 6th for me.
Number 6 for me, which breaks my heart to say this, but the Minnesota Wild.
Oh,
Yeah.
Whoa!
I think the lack of depth down the middle is really going to harm them in a division and a league where there's a lot of big centers. Having to go up against McKinnon on the Avs, Scheifele on the Jets, Taves and Doc on the Hawks, Sagan on the Stars. Like, you need a center who can go up against those guys. They have great wing depth. I love Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Fiala, Jordan Greenway. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, they don't have the depth down the middle. Their decor is great. They have one of the best decors in the NHL. And so that might help them win some games. But I'm not entirely sold on Talbot. Talbot has had really good years and really bad ones. And if he can do it again, they might be able to sneak into the playoffs. But I think with the lack of depth down the middle and a goaltending tandem that's relatively unproven, I have them finishing sixth. The one highlight of this year will be Marco Rossi,
The pivot point.
playing 82 games for the Minnesota Wild. From the sounds of it, I haven't gotten to watch him play yet, but from the sounds of it, he has been fantastic in camp. He is healthy. He is back. He went from going for casual walks and his heart rate spiking over 100 beats per minute back to being the absolute horse of a human being that he can be. He's great in the corners, and despite being a little smaller, very strong. And I think that he is going to be a drastic improvement to this team, but not enough to push them above sixth.
So I'll sort of pick your brain on that just for a sec. Marco Rossi, and we know, we can all agree the center depth is in question here. Where do you see him slotting in? Can he be a number 2?
I think they probably want to start him as 3 or 2. I think Bill Guerin came out in an interview talking about Rossi and Boldy and basically said, we don't want to force them into the NHL unless they're ready, because they're top 6 players and we want to play them in the top 6 if we're going to play them in the NHL. I think with their center depth right now, Marco Rossi is their second line center.
Right.
I'm very biased.
Right.
Incredibly biased. But I think you slot him in over Bukestad and Rask.
Sure. Well, my next question is what does this last year do to his development? Like we talk about development a lot. This guy full on missed a year, which is like, it's pretty devastating.
So a lot of prospects did this year.
Yeah.
COVID meant that
Sure.
a lot of people missed a year of their development. And I think one thing that Rossi has always had going for him is conditioning. And COVID took its toll on that. But he also had the opportunity to build himself back up over the offseason. From the sounds of it, at camp, he has been in tip-top shape. He himself says he's better than before. And I think that although it was a huge health scare, he is healthy, he's ready to go, and he is going to be a great asset for this Minnesota team.
Right.
I mean, it's funny. I'm on Daily Faceoff. He's not even on their lineup.
Not yet.
So, and I saw I asked, it was funny you brought up Rossi, Kyle, when you just showed up here, because it was one of the things I asked Michael when we were sipping coffee in the kitchen. Yeah. And I was like, so did you watch their preseason game last night? Marco Rossi played. He said he didn't.
Played too?
Yeah, that was the only other game.
Oh, fuck.
He clocked 17 minutes. He was a -2 with 2 shots on goal.
Right.
So that was his big debut.
Right.
And Michael will go to, I'm sure he'll watch the tapes tonight. And I was disappointed in him that he didn't watch his debut, but
Sure,
it is what it is.
I know.
But yeah, no, it is what it is. And yeah. But no, I mean, I'll get into things with Minnesota, but I couldn't disagree enough with you. And I'm stunned just the way these standings are unfolding right now. This is too different. This is getting off the rails.
That's why we.
This
do
is
these
off
things.
the rails.
This was off the rails.
Yeah, off the reservation table.
Well, and I've heard Boldy has been equally as impressive. Like those two have formed like a super duo in rookie camp at least. So that'll be fascinating.
Okay.
He has shot his stock way up, by the way, Boldy.
Yeah.
Like they're like in the draft, it's like, oh, good second line, maybe first line, but now they're like first line bona fide. This guy's going to be great. So good on them.
Now things start to get a little difficult for me. I kind of see these next 5 teams in a bit of a different area. But I got to agree with Kyle. I think this is where I put the St. Louis Blues, number 5. I think last year changed a lot for me. I think I officially didn't. I lost my fandom with the Blues. Wow. And they lost a lot of their identity. This was
some Blues, God.
This was a hard checking team. They was always defensively oriented. From the Ken Hitchcock days onward, and Craig Brewery picked that up his first year, and they won the cup, obviously. But I think they've lost a lot of their identity. I think Pietrangelo, when he left, I said it here on the show. I said this is a turning point for this organization, and they haven't. It's been such a glaring hole on their team. And I watched probably 20, 30 Blues games last year, and that's when I realized that this team is no longer for me. And I think they did miss a lot of Colton Parayko. He did miss about half the season last year. So that's your guy. That's now your new Pietrangelo. You miss him for half a season, okay, you're going to suck. But then other guys, like I don't think Torrey Krug was what they expected. I don't think that was a marriage made in heaven. I don't think he fits what they need. Justin Falk, I think he had good spurts here and there, but I don't think he's a top-notch top 4D. I don't think he's dependable. And Robert Bortuzzo is just getting old now. So like they just don't have a lot of nice pieces. One of their nice pieces, Vince Dunn, they lost to Seattle. So that was a big detraction. And then forward, I mean, Tarasenko doesn't even want to be there. You mentioned the stuff about Buchnevich. Will he even be a great acquisition? I don't know. I just, this team's floundering. They've lost their identity, and I'm just not as high on them. I won't be reaching for Jordan Binnington in round 6, wherever I drafted him last year. It was a terrible pick.
No.
It was
You
a
did
terrible
that last year.
Yeah.
Oh,
I took him in the 4th round or something.
Oh gosh, could you imagine going Binnington and Lafreniere and still doing?
That's
so
what
well?
I did.
Can't believe you. Yeah, that's crazy. You fucking worked your way out of that one.
Yeah. So can't have that happen this year. And again, they don't really have a backup pushing Binnington, so he has no motivation to perform every night.
Yeah.
So he can just suck.
He can just
still get his paycheck because
Yeah.
he got hired. He got the contract last year.
Yeah.
They just don't catch me as a great team with a lot of culture that I really want to root for.
No.
So there you go, Blues 5.
So I got an interesting point about our, because we're getting into 5 here, which is really interesting. So in the West, we've got the Central and the Pacific. This 4-5 in the Central could very well be our wild card teams. So you just said they're St. Louis at 5. They could still make it. They could still make it.
So yeah, for the record, looking at my teams, I don't think I have them as a playoff team.
Okay. So you think a Pacific team will beat them out in the wild card race?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So at 5, I've got Minnesota. I think we covered them pretty good already. For me, they're a tough team to read, just because I don't know where this young talent will factor in. We've got questions at center, like we've mentioned. Talbot is a huge question mark as well. I do love the Spurgeons, the Dumbas, the Goligoskis of the world. I think that's going to be, a consistent presence back there. So in terms of fantasy, I wouldn't be too scared to take Talbot. I know he was really good last year, but it would have to be a later round pick just because he's kind of sketchy. Really great wingers here. I am a huge Fiala fan. I think I took him at like the 10th round, and he has like the end of the seasons, he's like a point per game guy, and he takes a ton of shots. He's such a great little player there. So if he can take another step, Kaprizov got the contract. He's happy. He's still going to be super good. And then, it'll be interesting. But they're a hard team to read, and I think they will sneak into the playoffs with that last wild card.
Actually, let me rescind that. I do have the Blues making the playoffs.
Okay. Thank you for dialing that back.
They're gonna have the final spot, so no Pacific Division.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Very fair. Very fair.
Yeah, so I have the Blues at 5 in my standings in the Central. For a lot of the reasons that have been mentioned, they're a big team, and I think that they'll use that to their advantage, but they have lost a bit of their culture and losing Pietrangelo and really bringing in guys who are a little bit more of the modern-day NHL defensemen, right? Like Krug and Falk are designed to be a little bit more of the two-way, not the shutdown type, and I don't think that works as well in St. Louis's system. I'm going to try to be diplomatic when I talk about Binnington, but I think his personality worked really well for the last place team trying to come back and win it all.
Yeah.
I think his personality and the chip on the shoulder that he carries with him and the way that he acts really rubs me the wrong way. I'm a huge fan of Fleury and the energy that he brings to the ice.
Yes.
And I think Binnington just sucks the air out of the rink.
Yeah. Fucking
at the same time, clearly he can be a very good goalie and he can work well in the right room, but I don't think that the room as it is now is the right one for him. So Blues at 5.
Yeah. So we're pretty close. Like, yeah, we're pretty close.
No, you'll see. I'm writing it all down. We're off the rails.
Okay, good. Well, why don't after every division you can
And Mike, do you have them as a playoff team or no?
No, I'm actually higher on the Pacific teams than you are.
Ooh.
Fair.
Very fun. Very fun. Very fun. Yeah.
So who was your 5?
My 5 was Minnesota.
Minnesota, okay.
So we're pretty darn close.
Yeah, and you do have them as
Except
a playoff
your
team.
Chicago pick was kind of ballistic.
No, we're very off. Like we'll get into things. Okay, so I have, number 4. I have Dallas Stars.
Okay.
This team I was trying to trading with the Blues. Do I have them 4? Do I have them 5? But yeah, I mean, again, not a very sexy team. Kind of meandering like the Blues. You know, they're gonna play their style. They're very playoff oriented style. You know, Sagan hopefully can be healthy. Jamie Benn can hopefully be healthy. But you know, a guy like Joe Pavelski's only getting older. You know, your other guys, Guryanov, Kiviranta, they're kind of just middling top 6 forwards. The defense is largely still intact. They did add Ryan Suter from Minnesota, but I don't know how much game he has left. That's another aging star. They're just a very old team, old veteran team in Dallas. Not a lot. Where's the sexy young prospect in that lineup?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't think Braden Holtby is an NHL caliber goalie anymore. I never really.
Not even a backup role.
No. I think Khudobin and Bishop I like more as a duo than Khudobin and Holtby. And right now Bishop's still injured, so
You are an arse.
yeah, I don't know. I think Vancouver's gonna be really happy to have him out of there. I don't think he was great there, and I think the duo they're gonna have now, Halak and Demko, will be a much better duo.
He's too smug.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like this is why I have them 4, because they still got enough veterans to like play good games, and they're still gonna compete. They're still gonna pick up their points, and they're gonna secure a playoff spot. So I have Dallas 4.
Okay. So I'll go to my number 4, and this is a team that is very much in flux for me. I think this team could very well win the division if things go right. This is Winnipeg. This is the Winnipeg Jets. So Ehlers had a breakout year. A lot of people actually say Ehlers is the best player on this team, which I don't know if I'm willing to go there yet, but he's a really talented guy. So their winger depth is pretty awesome with that way. I mean, Connor, Wheeler, Ehlers. You even have Stastny looking like he might move to the middle, or sorry, the wing. It was a shitty year for Dubois. I gleaned a lot of information from the Friedman interview, but it looks like he's ready to double down, and I think I'm going to double down on my statement before that he's going to be a stud 2C. I think when he moved over to Winnipeg originally, I was like, wow, this team's going all the way. This is going to be unbelievable. And I think that's going to be closer to what we see this year from him. The defense is questionable at times. Like, that's the thing about this team. Like, I look at the names and I'm thinking, these guys, these players individually can work a good defense. But the pivot point on Winnipeg to me is going to be coaching. For whatever reason, the system that they put in place has guys like Connor Hellebuck shelled on a very consistent basis. In terms of goalies facing high danger shots, he's right up there in the top of the league. So I don't know why they can't get this figured out. I don't know if it's a buy-in problem, but I think a lot will be put on Paul Maurice to figure this system out. But if they can do that, I think they have a lot of potential here, and it looks good. It looks good to me. So we all know Hellebuck is Hellebuck. I'm going to have no problem looking at him in draft boards there. But it's going to be on coaching. And at the end of the day, I think they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to come 4th in this division for me.
So like Nick, I have the Stars at number 4. I really like this team, but there are some question marks as far as staying healthy goes. Ben Bishop and Khudobin, when they're healthy, are great goaltenders, but they've both had some injury concerns over recent years. I like the add of Ryan Suter on defense. He's still a very serviceable NHL defenseman, and I think that he's going to add some experience on the back end and provide support for players like Heiskanen, Lindell, and Klingberg. A healthy Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn would go a long way to pushing this team a little bit higher, but they have good depth, and they had one of the best rookie stories in Jason Robertson last year, which was great to see. So if they can stay healthy, I think that they can do well. I have them making the playoffs at number 4 in the Central, and I think Holtby provides a very good stopgap until Bishop is healthy. I don't think he stays there. I think once Bishop's healthy, you have Bishop and Khudobin, but he, at the very least, buys them a little bit more time.
Yeah, well said. I forgot about the young Robertson. If there's a sexy prospect, that's probably the one.
So sexy.
Moving on.
Yeah, he was right up there for the Calder too. He was getting votes.
Yeah, he was top 3 for sure. Moving on, I'll go right to Winnipeg at number 3. I think, for a lot of the reasons Kyle said, I still respect this team a lot. I still think they have a shit ton of character. Still respect them. I think they had tough luck in the playoffs. Getting swept by Edmonton was ugly, especially when 3 of those came in overtime. I still like just hearing they got swept. I don't consider it a sweep. No, it was in Edmonton.
They swept Edmonton. Yeah.
Edmonton swept Winnipeg.
No. Winnipeg swept Edmonton. Montreal swept Winnipeg.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Sorry. This seems like a while ago. But no, I mean, hey, they had the Scheifele injury. The suspension. So that kind of hurt them. And but I think in the offseason, I mean, the big thing with Winnipeg last year was defense. They didn't have a top 4 defense, and Hellebuck, like you said, Kyle, too much hung out to dry. And I think in the span of 2 days in the offseason, July 26, July 27, they got Brendan Dillon for a second round pick and a third, and they got Nate Schmidt for a third. And say what you want about those two, but I think they're top 4 defensemen. They're solid top 4 defensemen, and they're better than what Winnipeg had before. And I think I like Dillon more of those two. I think that guy is I followed him in San Jose. He was fantastic. And I think he'll be fantastic there in Winnipeg. Nate Schmidt maybe hasn't his game's kind of fallen off since his time in Vegas, but maybe this can be kind of like a reclamation project for him in a new market. So I like what they just purely out of like everything else has stayed intact. Like they're bringing back Paul Stastny, like everything else is intact. They don't have Laurent Brossoit anymore, but that's fine. Connor Hellebuck can carry the load. So barring a Hellebuck injury, and Dubois, he's not going to be any worse than last year. He's only going to be better.
He bottomed out last
year. He's only going to be better. Yeah. So all those reasons, the defense, Pierre-Luc Dubois actually getting familiar, not having a weird COVID transition where he had to quarantine for 2 weeks, all that bullshit. This team is going to be a playoff team. Like it's a guarantee. And I have them third in the division here.
Yeah. So I've got Chicago third. A team that's seen massive overhaul from last year. I will admit, when I look at the roster, it does feel very unbalanced to me. It's a feeling of uneasiness, but what gives me a sense of security is the highs of the team. They have Fleury, and I think Fleury's going to be such a cool, interesting fit on this team. Yeah. Like, I don't think he's going to come in and falter, especially with a storied franchise like Chicago. I just think, like, if you look at the dynasties of this last decade, Fleury has now been on 2 of them.
You're gonna draft Fleury, and I'm gonna laugh. Yeah, you are, and I'm gonna laugh when his GAA for the season is 290, and then we'll see. Then we'll see who's.
I'm not gonna draft Fleury. I think there's gonna be a high scoring team. So, I'm gonna get that out of the way. So he's just a very eccentric. Like, it just adds a level of depth that I love to this team. They have Taves and Kane. I hope Taves has been doing some productive things over this last year. I gotta think he's gonna be slightly motivated this last summer and this coming year by that little twinge of Olympic hope for him. I know that's gotta be biting at the back of his head. I'm sure he wants to be there. So I'm gonna think that he's gonna put in his best effort. They have the kitty cat up front, DeBrincat, who's gonna be a 40-goal scorer, just a stud to have on fantasy as well. Tyler Johnson, you mentioned the second line. So I think he's going to be third line. Kirby Dach is going to secure the second line center role, maybe even first line. I think he's due for a big year, just like you said. And then you mix in guys like Kuba Leak, and we've still got Dylan Strome hunting around down there, trying to reclaim his career as well. So, the pivot point is certainly Kirby Dach. If Dach is like a 40-point guy, then everything falls apart. But if he's going to be like 65-plus point guy with the big body and the physical presence that he can bring, I think this is going to be really great. This is going to be a great situation. Moving on quickly to the defense, Seth Jones, I think, is going to be incredible, like a top 5D in the league. I think he's going to bounce back seriously. But everything else is very up in the air for me. Like, Jones is great. I don't know how much I trust a Riley Stillman or a Connor Murphy. I think, again, this is an unbalanced defense, and I'm sure they're going to do something to shore some things up. But Jones is going to be an amazing defenseman this year. So coupling all that, I think it's another team that could go either way, but I think 3 is a good spot for me.
I've also got the Blackhawks at 3. I really like their top 9. I think that going from a season last year where they were missing Taves and Doc to picking up Tyler Johnson and being able to fill your top 3 centers with Doc, Taves, and Johnson, that's a huge upgrade. On the wings, you've got Kane, who has been a absolute firecracker in this league since he joined it. DeBrincat, who can put the puck in the back of the net. Kubalik, who had an outstanding year last year and hopefully can do the same. And then you fill that in with players who have shown that they have potential but haven't realized it yet in Dylan Strome, Alex Nylander, and Adam Gaudette. And I think that if those guys can show up, they can have a really good year. I also really like the addition of Jujhar Khaira. I think that he is going to be a great fourth liner for them and provide a little bit of sandpaper there. The D is definitely the question mark, but I do think that the Jones brothers, McCabe and Murphy, are serviceable. Not enough to keep the puck from getting launched at Fleury over and over and over again. But Fleury, as he showed last year, he won the Vezina. He's a great goaltender. Yes. And he is going to, there's no way he doesn't make this team better. So yeah, with that being said, Hawks at 3.
Number 2,
the Minnesota Wild. This is like this, we disagree so much.
The state of hockey.
Yeah.
I'll take your optimism.
I was very impressed with this team last year. I think they caught everyone by surprise. I think everything you said about center depth is true. Like they certainly don't have it. Like it's a glaring need, and it's part of the reason they drafted Marco Rossi. But at the same time, I just think they have an identity. Like they have an identity where they're going to rely on strong wingers. They're going to rely on a very good, amazing defense, like an amazing top 4. And they're in good goaltending, timely goaltending, and that's what they got last year. You said doubts about Cam Talbot. Cam Talbot was fantastic last year. He was really, really good. And that Kakkonen guy, when he had to fill in, he was very good as well. So I think those two have a good relationship, good working relationship. I think I think Kaprizov now, all that drama's out the window with the contract. That Kaprizov, Ek, and Zuccarello line was that's arguably a top 10 line in the league. It just is. You're not watching Minnesota games if you're making that noise. And I think that new coach there really got that team to really come together, and they almost beat Vegas. They took them to 7 games in the first round. If you take Vegas to 7 games in the first round, you deserve my respect. And it was like a gutsy 7 games. Like that team, they came down from 3-1 in that series to force a game 7 in Vegas, and they lost the game 1-0 or something. It was like a 1-0 game in game 7. So I just think they got too much pedigree to just come in 7th, and they've shown me too much. And I think so long as you got steady goaltending and a really good defense, and then stars like a Kaprizov now, they're a playoff team for me. I'd be shocked. I'll make a bet with anyone that this team makes the playoffs. Okay. Anyone.
All right. So yeah, I'll make this quick because we touched on them. For me, it's Dallas at number 2. Couple factors there. The veteran status is a big one here. I think they missed the playoffs last year, and they're not going to do that again. Sagan is finally back healthy. That's a big piece, and I think the bigger piece is that he's not even going to be the top line player. They're turning the keys over to the young kids now. Roop Hintz is going to be a point per game player, as he kind of was last season. Jason Robertson was one of my favorite rookies last year, specifically from a fantasy point of view, because the guy takes a bunch of shots, and he's just a talented guy. He was right up there with top 3 in Calder voting. So I think those two are great, and then you add the Joe Pavelskis on the power play, you add the Radlovs, you add a healthier Jamie Benn, hopefully, and you've got really great spread of forwards there. So I think that's a cool thing to look at too. You also have Miro Heiskanen who on defense, and a John Klingberg who can man your power play. These guys are cornerstone defensive pieces, especially if, I think Heiskanen's a bit overrated personally, but if everything people say is that he's just such a great defenseman. So that's going to be good. You got Suter back there who's going to be a stabilizing presence when Klingberg wants to jump in on the play. And then you've got, pretty solid goaltending overall. Khudobin, I know he didn't do amazing last year, but I think he can bounce back. Holtby is going to be, I think he's a fine backup. I think he's just, it's going to be an okay situation on goalies there, and they have a great defensive structure. So Dallas at number 2. I just think they're boring but safe pick there.
So at number 2, I have the Jets. And friend of the show, Joe, always said last year that the Jets suck. They suck at defending. They're so bad they can't defend. And what did they do? They went out and they added Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt in the offseason. And Schmidt had a down year, but we're also talking about like a character guy during a year where you can't really get to know your teammates. So he spent the year in Vancouver, couldn't get to know his teammates. They got hit hard by COVID. And now he's getting a fresh start in Winnipeg with a team that defends from the front, has a very deep forward core, like 1 to 12, very deep, and then Hellebuck in net. So they've improved their defense. They're a great team. They have a ton of skill, and they defend as a unit. They can give up a lot of shots, but Hellebuck has shown that he actually sort of likes it that way.
Yeah.
So I have them at 2 in this division.
Yeah, that's a respectable pick. I got nothing to say against that one.
Wonder who number 1 is.
Yeah, I wonder who number 1. I'll make this short and sweet.
Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah. This is Cale Makar's team, as far as I'm concerned. He will strip Nathan McKinnon of the captaincy one day. Or who is the captain now? That he's still okay. Yeah. It would have been interesting to see had he left, what the situation would have been there. But I don't want to get into them. I have Colorado number 1, and we've talked about them enough. The one thing I will say is like it's their growing years excuse is kind of out the window now. Yeah. You know, I remember when they lost that devastating game in the bubble against Dallas, Kyle ran around his street and was super angry. But the one thing he said that kind of put him at ease was, Nick, it's not their time. It's not their time. And then last year, I don't think you could have made this past year. You couldn't make that same excuse. They're out of excuses, and I think if this team doesn't get out of the second round this year, I think Jared Bednar is done. Yeah. So there you go.
So there's actually some question marks here for me. Like believe it or not, I think the consistent things are very consistent. I have no problem with the goaltending. I love the goaltending. Kemper is going to be amazing. The defense is outstanding. They were top of the NHL in terms of suppressing shots. You've got a guy named Eric Johnson. He's coming back from injury. He's not going to be a top 2 line guy perhaps, but on the depth side of things, that's going to be great. Taves, Makar, Girard, those are all big pieces. The forwards, like they did lose Brandon Saad, like the forward depth, you can question that. Absolutely. I think that's fair to do. Obviously the top 6 is unbelievable. But the forward depth you can question. I think it's something that Joe Sakic will address. However, 2 key pivotal pieces. Devon Taves is injured right now, and Cale Makar is wearing a non-contact jersey right now. Bowen Byram is going to have to be a second pairing defense. I think he's ready for the role, but he's going to have to be like, well, this guy's a can't miss second pairing defense for them to do what they want. They got rid of Connor Timmins to make room for this guy. So he's going to have to take that step. Even bigger, like this is going to be absolutely monumental. Alex Newhook has got to be a bona fide top 6 player. Like they absolutely are relying on that fact. Especially if you want to have him on the wing, then that's great. But if you want to have him as your 3, maybe even 2C, depending on what Kadri's doing, and if you want to be a championship team, this is someone to look at right now. They're counting on this guy to be very good. So that's going to be kind of what I'm looking for. And I think just to wrap that all up, the main objective of this entire regular season, I say you can chill out a little bit. The whole objective is to get these 2 players comfortable. For me, that should be goal number 1. Forget come third if you want to. Newhook and Byram have to be mainstays for me.
There are a few teams that I have where honestly the regular season is it's the foreplay because they can't wait to get to the playoffs, and that's where really the season starts for them. Mm-hmm. And the Avs are one of them. I have them number 1 in this division easily. They are practically the same team as they were last year. Grubauer for Kemper is a totally fine trade. I think Kemper might be a better goaltender when he's healthy. But this is a team where at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where they finish as long as they make playoffs. And then they need to make it out of the second round. And if there was ever a year for them to like really win it all, it's a year where they have a lot of players up front on expiring contracts. And I think they really need to push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you get all those written down, Nick?
Yeah, I did. So the biggest little differences there happen to be Chicago. I have them as my 6. You guys have them as your 3rd, respectively, and then I have the Wild as my 2nd, and the 2 of you have Minnesota. Kyle's got them 5th, and you've got them 6th. So those are the big differences there.
Funny.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good going off the board there a little bit.
So in terms of speed,
Yeah.
we should
Fly by the West, or is that what the next one?
Let's breeze through
Yeah.
Pacific.
Breathe through Pacific, 8th seed, arguably the most saddest catastrophic state in the NHL from a salary cap perspective, the San Jose Sharks. They've simply given out too many loyalty deals. We've talked about them ad nauseum. This is another team like the Blues where I'm jumping off the fan base, so to speak. Like unless they get Shane Wright at this year's draft, I'm just about done with them. When Pete DeBoer left for Vegas, that was a sign that they were done. And ever since then they've sucked. You got the Evander Kane drama. That's only hurt the team.
God.
This is arguably the worst character team in the league.
Absolutely.
Eric Carlson, Evander Kane. It's just too much bullshit.
Yeah. Devoid of character.
They finally bought out Martin Jones. It's about time.
Even Couture's shitty character.
But I feel bad for the guy because he has to put up with all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one guy trying to keep everything together. So it's just sad. Culture is bad. Team is bad. Goaltenders suck. There's just nothing to look forward to here. I don't know. Like, I'm curious what this fan base is so used to having like a decent team, like a team that makes the playoffs every year. I'm curious what that market's going to be like with such a middling, shitty team. Are they gonna go down into like Arizona levels bad as far as like fans?
I hope so.
It's a shitty team now in California.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna do.
It's a tough sell.
Tough sell. So this of all teams is like this is a very big Shane Wright team, candidate. So I got them as my 8.
Okay, I'll be quick here again. I have Seattle at 8. I think the players aren't very good, and I think that not having, what the hell is his name? Hold on one sec. Hold on. One sec. Who's that? Yeah, not having Yanni Gourde for the first few months, like that's going to destroy your chances of doing anything. And second to that, I think Seattle wants to be bad. In my opinion, that's where they should be. It's going to be fun seeing Jordan Eberle be like one of the faces of the team. A lot of people are looking at Jared McCann to take on that top center role out with Yanni Gourde out. I mean, I watched a lot of Pittsburgh games. He's a great player, but he's definitely not a 1C, and he's not going to be, any sort of offensive juggernaut, despite what some fantasy guys are trying to tell me. So yeah, they're okay. Their defense, I think, are very serviceable. I think they got a good solid defense, but and goalie too. But it's just going to be a have fun year, like go out and have a skate kind of thing. But we'll see. I have them at 8.
Yeah, so I had the Ducks as my number 8, but after that rousing speech by Nick, I'm gonna put the Sharks down there too. I agree with everything that he said about them. It's hard to argue that they're not. It's hard to argue that they are higher than the worst character team in the league right now, and it is. There's too much going on outside the rink, and they would need a huge bounce back from a lot of their big name players, and a lot of their big name players are in their mid 30s now. So I don't see it happening. And yeah, Nick convinced me. Sharks at 8.
Yeah, like if there's one team I don't want to be the GM of, it's this team because like the contracts are just destroying you. Other than the nice weather there, I'd have nothing to look forward to every morning. I just wake up in devastation every day. Like I have to look at these Eric Carlson 7-year, $11 million contract, Marc-Edouard Vlasic getting paid like $7 million a year. Like these are just awful deals. that there's no getting out of.
You're out on Toronto, St. Louis, and San Jose.
I'm out on St. Louis and San Jose, and Toronto, I got 1 foot out the door.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. Anyways, number 7, I'll go Anaheim. At least they got something to look forward to. They got the 2 young kids who will have a full year under their belts. You saw them succeed in their short stints last year. Now they'll have a full year, so that'll be nice. And then, of course, they actually have a goalie. They have John Gibson. San Jose doesn't have a goalie. They have James Reimer and Aiden Hill. So the goalie's still going to win them their games here and there, you know? He's going to keep them from being the worst team in the league, you know, unlike these Buffaloes and these Arizonas and these San Joses. So they will not have the best odds for Shane Wright. And they still have enough veterans there who play with enough pride, like Getzlav. And you know, guys like Comtois are still growing. He had a great year last year. Quietly had a very good year last year. And you can't forget about that. And then the D is still okay. Like Josh Manson, Lindholm, Drysdale. Like it'll be serviceable. They're just a 7th team to me. But again, not other than those 2 prospects, not much to look forward to here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be quick. Number 7, San Jose, for all the reasons. Like, yeah, I should change them to be last, but I'm going to keep the integrity of the list here, I guess. Like, this is a terrible team. Just such a brutal team. I have nothing else to say. Maybe the one thing, if any of these guys maybe are sparked by some Olympic hope, I'm sure Carlson wants to be on the Sweden team. Burns, I don't fucking know. I don't know if he's even on the radar, but I'm sure that's got to be on some guy's mind, so I'm not sure. We'll see, but absolutely not going to catch a single game, even if they're playing my favorite team.
So yeah, I have the Ducks at 7 because of the quick switch to put the Sharks last. Corey Pronman, I think it was, came out talking about Jamie Drysdale before the season and talking about how he doesn't see him as a top pairing defenseman long term, and I completely disagree with that.
He's such a clown.
But this is a growth year. This is a year where somebody like Zegras, who I would argue, considering expectations, actually had a rough season last year. He didn't live up to a lot of the expectations that were placed on him. I think a full season, he's insulated with Adam Henrique and Ryan Getzlav, so he can just sort of develop. I don't know if he'll play center for them. But there's insulation here for the young guys, and that's a good sign. And yeah, the veterans will impart some wisdom. The team will grow. Gibson will win them a few games, but they're not going to finish higher than 7th.
Number 6, the expansion, Seattle Kraken. I don't think they're going to be that bad as Kyle says they are. I still like they still made moves showing they're going to compete. Like, you wouldn't take on Brandon Tanev if you wanted to be the 8th place team, because that contract's not very good. Like, he's a very good player, but he's overpaid.
I actually don't think he's overpaid.
He's overpaid for a bottom 6 forward, in my opinion. And the fact they took on that contract without any kind of sweetener to make it more digestible was a little surprising. And I look at the team, I'm like, they got, and the goaltender, like, you don't trade for Grubauer if you're going to come 8th. I don't agree with that take. So I have them. They have a solid enough goaltending to be decent. The defense is solid. Like Vince Dunn, Alexiak, Giordano, Larson. Like, that's not a last place defense. Hayden Fleury, stud. Goaltending, defense, very good. The problem with this team is who's going to score. Like, night in and night out, who's going to score? And this is one of those teams I'm going to stream goalies against. Like, I'm just going to pick up a goalie on a Thursday night and just stream against Seattle and take my chances, because I'm not scared by their offense. Like, Jared McCann's your number 1 center, you know, and until Yanni Gord comes back, they don't look too great here. Like, Morgan Geekie, Wenberg, McCann, those are your centermen. It's awfully sad.
It is sad.
And
they're going to get caved.
Who's going to score? You could play on their 4th line.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, this is ridiculous.
It's just shot block.
Yeah. So I'm not too high on the scoring, and ultimately that's why I have them behind these other teams with, like, Vancouver, who actually has a formidable top 9, you know, or Edmonton's got McDavid. Calgary's at least got some weapons. So this team just doesn't have that. So 6 for me.
6, I'll go Anaheim. Really great young pieces to look forward to. I'm really excited to see Jamie Drysdale man that top power play if they let him do so and give him the reins. Zegras is in some places the odds-on favorite to win the Calder. He's got all the talent in the world. And yeah, I mean, it's just, they're not going to be great, but in just comparison to the other teams there, I think 6 is a good place to put them for me. And it really depends on the kids. But good times in Anaheim. They got the goalie. Fans can be excited for once.
So this is the portion of this division where, like, I could have any of these teams ranked third through sixth, but I have the Los Angeles Kings here because I think their D is a little bit questionable. I really like their forwards. I love the fact that they brought in Danault, and they're able to deploy Kopitar and Danault and let Byfield just go out there and play offense.
Pretty wild.
I love the future of this team. This team has great prospects in the system. Like, picking up Brandt Clark and Helge Granz. Yeah, Brandt Clark and Helge Granz in this past draft. 2 solid D prospects. Brandt Clark, who projects to be a number 1 defenseman. But yeah, they've got D prospects in the system. They have like great offensive prospects in the system. If Cal Peterson can do what he did again last year, and Nick on this show said, none of you know his name now, but by the end of the season, you will know Cal Peterson. He did. He got a big one. He got paid. Yeah. So I have them as 6, but they could finish as high as 3, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, Peterson's been great. The only problem is Jonathan Quick's still there. So like from a fantasy perspective, you're gonna lose a lot of starts to Quick just because he's got the veteranship there. But we'll get into that next episode. Yeah, I mean, this is where I have them 5th. I still think they'll be in the runnings for Shane Wright, but not like as those really shitty teams are. Like an acquisition like Philip Deneau shows they're going for it now. You know, you don't pay him. What is he getting? $5.5 million a year. Yeah. Like it's a mixed deal. It's a mixed deal. I've heard optimism like Mike's take, but I'm a little more on the other side. I'm like, I don't know if he needed him this early.
That's
you know?
what I'm wondering. Like why? And Deneau went there so he could be in the top 6. What about Byfield? Like when Byfield comes of age, like what happens then? You're a pissed off third line center.
I don't know. I guess they want to surround these kids with like veterans who can actually play. You know, you need to build some kind of optimism. So like Philip Deneau and Edler on defense. Like those are 2 additions just to kind of show the kids how to grow. You know, you can't just throw them in there when it's a team full of kids. You know, so. I don't know. They'll be serviceable. Victor Arvidsson, he had a tough year last year. He's one of the other one. He's like a Dubois. He can't get any worse than last year. He's only going to get better. And yeah, I still think like a Gabe Velarde's growing. I think that he might have a very good breakout year this year. You know, I still am an Adrian Kempe fan. I like Trevor Moore when he played in Toronto. I still think he's a good fit there. There's pieces to like, and that's why they're ahead of that San Jose Anaheim tier. But I still don't have them as a playoff team. I don't know if they're ready for that.
What is Byfield going to do this year?
Well, he's not even on the daily faceoff roster here.
No, he'll be on the roster though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start watching these preseason games. I think
maybe not.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how he does. I mean, what would be a successful year for Quentin Byfield? It's tough when you don't know how many games he's going to play, right?
Well, so I think a successful year for Byfield is just meaningful NHL time. And it's weird to say because he was a 2nd overall pick, but I think if he doesn't see meaningful time, that's a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
And otherwise, you don't need to push him into anything, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah, don't get too much into the points. He needs this many points per game. Like just have him get adjusted. I think he only had like 8 or 10 games last year. Mm-hmm. Like have him just get more games under his belt. You're not competing this year. Like I don't know why they have this like why management has to feel like they need to make the playoffs this year. You know, so take your.
They want to compete though. Don't you think they want to compete, LA?
Well, by signing Philip Deneau, yeah. You know, like that's a go for it kind of move. Yeah. That's a go for it player. So that's why I was a little curious why they went for it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I'm with Mike. Just get games under your belt. Play at least like I don't know, like go play 50, 60 games instead of 10. and maybe that would be a good year.
Yeah.
And start forming some chemistry with some of the line mates you're going to play with in future years. I think that would be a nice little goal for Byfield.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, you did number 5 with LA, right? So yeah, my number 5 is going to be Calgary. I just see this team as a really messy team for me, just because of all the drama that has been surrounding so many of these players. Like, why does Matthew Tkachuk not get along with the coach? It makes no sense to me. So I think they're going to transition into this kind of defensive, more physical-minded game. And I think they're going to be like kind of that boring good kind of territory there. I don't know how that suits a guy like Johnny Gaudreau or Sean Monahan. Like, there's just so many question marks. Otherwise, like, the talent on the roster may warrant them being a little higher for me, but just those intangible factors keep them a little lower. You lose Giordano as well. I think that's going to hurt. You're really putting a lot of stock into Noah Hannafin and guys like that. Zadorov's a good little addition there. It'll fit the system well. He's a big physical guy. But I think Markstrom's going to have a good year overall. I think that'll be a stabilizing presence for them. But yeah, the pivot point here will be coaching and how the coaches interrelate with the top players on this team. Because if they do shit, things are going to blow up straight to hell. So that's me, number 5 for me.
I have the Flames at 5 too, and I think there's a lot to like about this team. There's also a lot to point at and say, I don't know if this is going to work. They brought in Blake Coleman, which is a great signing. They overpaid him a little bit, but that's what you do in UFA years. And you can see Daryl Sutter's fingerprints all over the roster now. Bringing in Coleman, bringing in a guy like Trevor Lewis, who he worked with before in LA. They brought in Zadorov, Goodbranson, like big defensemen to try to fill that hole that Gio left when he was taken by Seattle. And I think with a bounce back year by Jacob Markstrom, they could make the playoffs, but I have them at 5th in the division and not making the playoffs because at the end of the day, I don't believe a whole lot in their depth. I think they need to be better in their bottom 6 for me to take them as a playoff team.
Number 4.
Yeah, the Blake Coleman contract was a little ridiculous.
Suspect.
That's a lot of years to a guy who frankly probably isn't going to stay healthy for that long playing that game. Yeah, very very much like a Hyman. I mean, what's he getting paid? Yeah, 4.9 million over. Yeah, that's a lot. 5 million year player. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, he clearly Daryl Sutter is like calling the shots there, with the Trevor Lewis and that. So, number 4, Vancouver Canucks. I still have them behind Edmonton and Calgary just because I just don't think they have as much of an identity as those two teams. Like I just don't like. I think the Garland. I love Connor Garland. Love that guy. I'm gonna draft him in fantasy before any of you can, and that's one secret I'll release.
Wow.
And and we, oh yeah, you could, yeah, maybe you will. Vasily Podkolzin, a favorite of Kyle's, he'll finally get into the NHL. So I know fans there have been waiting a long time for him to arrive, right? Because it sucks when you draft a player and then he's stuck in the KHL for 2 years. Yeah. So this is a guy who was where was he drafted? Like, this is a top 5 pick, right?
He was top 10.
Top 10.
Yeah.
So
sure.
He's got high pedigree though.
Yeah.
And we've seen him on the international stage. He always brings it. He's like a leader on that Russian team every year. So I think he's going to be great. And then like they're just a solid top 9. Like Bo Horvat, Besser, Pettersson, Hoglander. Mm-hmm. Like, they're solid. And then the defense is still suspect. Like, Quinn Hughes is still growing. OEL, a lot of people shit on. And we'll see. I think that'll be the big determining factor is, can he reclaim his old self? If he can, this team will be just fine. If he can't, then your only 2 reliable D are like Quinn Hughes and Hamonic, and maybe Tyler Myers you throw into that mix. But like Tucker Poolman, Yoli Ualevi, I just don't buy into those guys. And then the goaltending, they solidified enough this year. Demko, Halak, get like I said, get Holtby out of there. Halak is a very good backup, and Thatcher Demko is only getting better every year. So I can't see them being that bad, and that's why I have them fourth ahead of a team like the Kings.
Right. So for 4 for me, I will do the Kings. I'll start with what I don't like is that defense. Outside of Drew Doughty, there's a lot of question marks. However, if you guys do listen to that 31 Thoughts interview series, they interviewed Doughty. This is a motivated guy. This is a extreme, like they talked about Olympics, and he's like, I'm going for the team. Like, I don't care. I get pissed off when people leave me off that team. I get pissed off with how people are saying I'm on the decline. This guy, he's going to be extremely motivated and a sneaky pick for fantasy if you get him at a decent round. So he could pop off with the offensive talent that we have up front. Victor Arvidsson is a really good addition that they made. He'll slot in on the top line. Byfield is going to be great. You've got Kaliev as a potential ace there, and then Philip Deneau and Kopitar are just going to solidify things. So there's a lot of great things going on up front. And then the goaltending, you guys mentioned Cal Peterson is going to be just fine in net. So I think they're good enough to be fourth, and I think between them and St. Louis, for me, they're going to be battling for a playoff spot.
Number 4 in this division, I have the Kraken, and I really like their decor. They're big. Adam Larson is fantastic and got buried in Edmonton because they were horrible defensively. But he is a really solid top 4 guy. They have Giordano, Alexiak, Larson, Dunn, Soucy, Hayden Fleury. Like, their top 6 D is solid. And then if they can get some scoring up front, they can be really good. And a lot of this will depend on what type of system Dave Haxtell employs as their coach. If he tries to open it up, I can see this team getting absolutely burnt. But if they play a tight defensive system, this team can be really good. Mm-hmm. They brought in a player in Eberle who came from New York, where Trotz employed a very we will play tight defense and score when we get the opportunity. And so if that's the type of system they play, they can be very successful. Jared McCann is a potential fantasy big pick, but very risky. High risk, high reward. Yeah. Because he's finally getting the opportunity. And he could be William Karlsson, or he could be out of the NHL in 2 years. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I have the Kraken at 4. But if they try to open it up, I think they could get lit up on a nightly basis.
So we're going 3.
We're going 3 now. I'm going with Edmonton Oilers at 3. Not going to get into much here other than the fact and we talked about it last week, they didn't improve the goaltending. They still have Mike Smith and Koskinen as their duo, and it let me down. And I don't care what you want to say about the Hyman contract. We talked about it last time. The top 6 is still formidable. You know, the D, you still have question marks, like bringing in Duncan Keith. How much games he got left? You know, Cody Ceci, is he a top 4 defenseman? Like, those are questions that need to be asked, you know, for reasons we've already talked about. And then the goaltending. So they're a playoff. Any team with McDavid, you're a playoff team. You're a playoff team. McDavid and Draisaitl, you got the 2 of the top 5 fantasy players out there, right?
Yep.
You're in the playoffs, but the goaltending's not there, and it's going to keep letting you down until you improve it. And this general manager there, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it yet. So 3 for me, Edmonton.
Mm-hmm. 3 for me is going to be Vancouver. You guys did a good job mentioning some of the players they have there. I think Bo Horvat is one of the great leaders in this league. I talked to a lot of Vancouver locals very recently, and we built up a kind of an excitement for this team. So I'm excited to see Podkolzin. Hoglander's a year more experienced. Pettersson's going to bounce back. He didn't have a great year last year. And then you have guys like Quinn Hughes who are going to take, again, a bit of a down year last year. So I think they're gonna bounce back too. And the goaltending I tend to really enjoy. Funny note on this Ole Ulevi guy. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they were doing those suicide sprints in practice, and he collapsed into a heap of rubble into the corner of the rink, and it was just a very unprofessional scene at an NHL training camp where you're trying to make the roster. It was just brutal. He's like he's dead on the ice. So I don't know if I can expect too much out of this guy, but everyone else looks good.
Some of the best NHL content you can find is on the Canucks subreddit. That entire fan base is so funny.
Yeah.
At 3 I have the Oilers. The note I have written down is, are they better? Are they better? They brought in Zach Hyman, but then they also added Duncan Keith, who's getting older. Cody Ceci, who is a questionable defenseman. Are they better? They didn't address depth. They didn't address goaltending. And so there's still 3 because a team with McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins they're gonna score. They're gonna do well in the regular season. Zach Hyman can play with stars. He's a great addition. But I have them at 3, but they're just in a weird spot, and I would agree with Nick that their GM just hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, very disappointing. Moving on, number 2. This is probably like we're again with Minnesota, where I disagree a lot with you guys. I have Calgary as my 2nd seed. Listeners of the show probably won't be surprised. I'm into the more heavier, hard-hitting teams, and this is one of them. And I think the addition of Blake Coleman, say what you want about the contract, but for this year, we're just talking about this year on this episode, I think that'll pay dividends. I think a Trevor Lewis, that's a guy, like you said, Michael, in LA, he was a big part, third-line center of winning those cups, and that's just a Daryl Sutter guy. And I don't know, they lost Giordano, but frankly, I don't know how many reps he's got left. I still think Hanifin, Anderson, Tanev, those are top 4D. Zadorov, that's an interesting guy from Colorado. Kyle's very aware of him. I know but him. That's a Daryl Sutter kind of guy,
Yeah, it is.
He's just gonna fucking fuck people up on occasion.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The character on the team still like Goudreau and Monahan, right? That's the face of the team still.
Which
and
sucks.
they leave much to be desired.
It doesn't work.
But I don't know. I think enough of a supporting cast. Mangiapane, Dubé, Kachuk. It'll be enough. And I think the style they play. Markstrom's arguably the best goalie in this whole division. And I think that'll be a big deal. I think that's a guy you got to target in fantasy because Daryl Sutter's going to run that guy every night out there. That's a guy I'll be targeting.
Markstrom?
Yeah. They don't have their backups, Dan Vladar.
Oh, I love that guy.
Like Daryl Sutter goalies don't allow a lot of shot. They don't allow a lot of goals. So that I'm gonna put a lot of faith in this team, and they're gonna be a playoff team. I don't know where they'll end up. I have them 2 as far as today, but playoffs for me.
Okay, yeah. Number 2 for me is Edmonton. I have them over Vancouver simply because of the Top Guns, and I really will be super keen on seeing how Hyman works on that top line.
Yeah.
I think Mike asked the question, are they better? I can't say I can quite answer that because it depends on several factors, but what I can say is their top 6 to me is better because of Hyman. So for that very reason, yes, they get more top heavy. The balance is all fucked, but I mean, hopefully they can just beat up on these specific teams and just rack up a bunch of points. McDavid's getting a $140 this year.
Yeah.
And the pivot point big time for me here is going to be Evan Bouchard and what step he takes. Mm-hmm. We're questioning whether Cody Ceci or Duncan Keith can fit into their roles, but if Evan Bouchard can supplant one of those 2, I think then you're in a good position. The goaltending sucks, absolutely. But they were okay in the regular season last year at least, so hopefully that'll be good enough to get them to 2nd. Either way, Vancouver, Edmonton, interchangeable for me probably, but the Stars put it over the edge.
So where the Flames are a bit of an old school NHL team, I think the Canucks are sort of the new school. They have a lot of mobile defensemen. They have a lot of skill up front, and for me, that's why they slot in at 2nd. This team, one of the biggest knocks on them has been depth on defense and depth on forward for years. And they addressed both of those in this offseason. They brought in Connor Garland. They brought in Jason Dickinson. They brought in Podkolzin, who has been much anticipated. So if they can get Patterson and Hughes signed before the start of the season and get off on a roll, I think they're going to do well. Last year, they got hammered by COVID. And I've already mentioned that on this show, but they're not a bad team. They got hammered by COVID. They never got their legs under them again after that. And their schedule was insane. So I think this year, with a full 82-game schedule, with a team that has improved up front and on the back end, and Thatcher Demko, who has shown that he's a number one goalie, that they are the second best team in this division.
Number one, again, yeah, we haven't had a lot of unanimity on this show. So we had the Avs so far, and we had the Coyotes first and last in that Central. This is the first bid in this division. Obviously it's Golden Knights' division to lose. I don't need to talk about them. I mean, like devastating loss last year, how they lost to the putrid Montreal Canadiens.
They're ridiculous. Pete
DeBoer's ripping whatever hair he has left on his head off as we speak. And I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to do here. They obviously re-signed Alec Martinez. A lot of this is just bringing the band back together and running it back. And Robin Leonard's going to get a shit ton of starts. That's why I'm keeping him this year, because they've got no bullshit anymore. No Fleury, Leonard bullshit. Leonard's not going to give away the puck in Game 3 of a very important series and lose the game with a minute left. That's not going to happen. It's just not. So this is the most complete team in the entire league. This is the best team in the entire league.
That's ridiculous.
And this team will win the President's Trophy.
No.
And that's where I sit on the Vegas Golden Knights.
No.
That said, arguably the most dislikable team in the league. Like I hate this team. I fucking hate this team because they're so they're just win it all.
You love this team.
No, I hate this team. Ownership just wants to I love Pete, but I hate the team. And ownership just it's how you buy a Stanley Cup. That's what they're trying to do. Just get it one way or another. That owner there, Bill Foley, he's just yelling at them. Get this guy. Get this guy. Get this guy. It's like kids. It's like playing we've talked about this. It's like playing NHL 22 and selling the farm, selling all your draft picks, selling all your top prospects, your Suzukis, having this stacked team and seeing if it pays off. Yeah. And I want them to fail.
Good.
I want them to fail. We are on the same page, but I think they're going to finish in the President's Trophy, and I'll be so happy if I'm wrong.
Okay. So that being said, I also have them at number one of any year of Vegas's existence, maybe other than the first year. I think this could be the year they have the rug pulled out from under them. Now, I think that the only thing stopping that from happening big time is the fact that they're in the Pacific and they'll be playing a lot of Pacific teams. But I think last year Montreal really dented that armor for me. I think you saw a little bit of vulnerability here. The Mark Stones lost their tops. You had, your best player was probably Alex Tuck, which, he's a great player, don't get me wrong. But now I'm looking at the center depth, and I don't know how you can roll out Chandler Stevenson and William Karlsson as your 1-2. It's not, to me, championship material. And it's not President's Trophy material either. So I think this team is going to start their decline, and it's going to start this year, but they're going to be good enough to have him number one. For sure. Pietrangelo is amazing, too. He was their best player, I should say. I meant forwards before. But.
So, Vegas, man. I love that metaphor. Sorry, that Montreal put a dent in the armor. That was amazing. Yeah, I think they might be the anti-hero of the NHL. And the reason why I say that is I think that Tampa at this point, they're the reigning champions. I think that for a lot of people, they're the favorite to do it again. And to do it a third time would be absolutely ridiculous. So I have Vegas as the anti-hero of the NHL. You hate them, but at the end of the day, if they were to win, I don't think there would be a lot of people who would really be complaining. They do have some holes down the center. I hate that they traded away Marc-Andre Fleury. I hate their approach to building a team, but if it works, it works. And I think they win the Pacific. I don't think they win the President's Trophy, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they did.
So,
yep. Sorry.
Where do you want to
take
go?
things here because I'm just placing the mid episode pizza order.
Okay. So I'll ask. Well, you can answer this too. Where do you want to go, Metro or Atlantic? We usually finish off with the Atlantic.
I think we should finish with the Atlantic because we'll probably be the most tired then. But it's arguably the most interesting division.
Correct,
so it'll. Let's do that.
So the Metro it is then.
The Metro it is, and I'll be brief so I can get this in here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's something funny. Okay, I'll get into it too. Yeah.
It's a competitive division.
Understatement of the year.
For sure.
This is a murder's row. There's no harder division, I don't think.
But I think with the whole John Tortorella leaving Columbus, there's a culture change there in Columbus, and I think this is now a team that's firmly established rebuilding. I think you saw that with the Seth Jones deal, the 3 first-round picks, very much like Arizona. We're into this rebuild, and we're going to do everything we can to maximize draft capital. And I just think they're poised to be like kind of a middling bad team in this very tough division. And they're easily for me the 8th seed when I look at this division. So that's all I got. That's all I got to say about them. They're doing things right. Like for a rebuilding team, they're doing things right.
Yep.
And that's how it's going to be this year. So 8th seed.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer for me as well. This division was very tough for me to manage, but this is a no-brainer. Just really funny little note. Daily Faceoff has Cole Sillinger as the number 1 center, which is just wrong. It's straight up wrong because they just drafted him 12 this year. He's had a great camp. Don't get me wrong. He's had an amazing camp, but that's just silly. Jack Roslovic slides in as the number 2 C according to this. They made that Atkinson for Voracek trade, so it's a changing of the guard because Atkinson was the guy I always associated with Columbus. Mm-hmm. So it's going to start getting a little weird, but I think Voracek passing the puck to Laine is going to be a good match. I think that's why they got him. And then just 2 large bodies on the wing there on the top line. It's going to be a very interesting, sort of scary top line because they're puck protectors. They're one of them's a direct shooter, one of them's a direct passer. Whoever you slide in that middle piece is going to be the pivot point, but it's going to be a really interesting top line, and everything else I really don't care about.
Yeah, I think you touched on this, and this is how I feel about the Blue Jackets as well. Is they're going to be exciting but not good, and so I have them as 8th in this division. They need time to rebuild their team and culture, but when Igor Chenikov steps in as number 1 center,
very interesting. He was good too at camp, right?
Yeah, really he was. Good. I think there are still some good names associated with this team. They've got a great goaltending tandem in Korpisalo and Merzlikins, but I think one of them will have to go, and it looks like it'll be Korpisalo because he's only got 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
I like the Jake Bean addition. He has the potential to be really good if they give him the time and just sort of the teaching. Mm-hmm. There, Adam Boquist, Mikko Lehtinen, like there are some interesting players on this team.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, exciting but not good is my verdict on the Blue Jackets, and so 8th in the division.
Very fair. Very fair. They had a great little 2-week span at the draft, though. Like, they did a lot of great things.
Number 7. This one, again, I don't think it's too difficult. Kyle's least favorite team in the league, New Jersey Devils.
They're up there. They're way up there.
They're shit.
They're not that bad.
I don't know, man. I still not that high on them.
They're way better this year, though.
Okay, so Blackwood's a decent goalie, so he's gonna keep you guys in games. The Bernier contract's miserable. We were talking about. I don't know how that guy gets. What's he get? Like close to $4 million a year. Like,
he must be a great guy.
Or that agent. He's got the best agent in the league. I don't know how he got that contract done.
He was good in Detroit, considering it was Detroit. He was good. Very good.
How do you know this? Did you watch Red Wings games?
No, I've
where are you coming from?
I've heard. Okay, you keep going. I'm going to pull up his numbers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This team for me is just like I don't get a lot of excitement. Like, okay, Jack Hughes had a step up year. You know him. You had him in fantasy, right, Mike? Like that was good. Nico Hischier will be healthy. That'll be good. Miles Wood, they love him there. He's always going to bring it. They got Tatar from Montreal. But like okay, Dougie Hamilton is a top 2 defenseman, sure. But that doesn't change the fact PK Subban's still one of the worst contracts in the league. Ryan Graves from Colorado, that's not necessarily an upgrade. Like this was a guy he was like a 5'6" defenseman there, right? In the playoffs, he really struggled. He had a shit playoffs.
Upset when
He had
they
a
kept
shit
trotting him
playoffs.
out.
Yeah.
They should have put Timmins.
There were so many shots from the playoffs of just devastation on that guy's face. Cuz he made a lot of errors in that Vegas series. So I don't know. I think Colorado's happy to see him go, and he's just going to be on this middling team. Like, okay, Ty Smith developing, good defenseman. Okay, great, but like
really good young defenseman, really good.
Yeah. But the pieces around him still aren't that great. Like Ryan Graves, Subban, Siegenthaler, I don't know. They're just middling and not a lot of excitement. I still don't get excited over New Jersey. Like, for the same way you don't watch your team play against San Jose. Like, I don't really.
This for you?
Yeah, like
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just like meh.
All right, interesting. Well, I have New Jersey at 7 as well, but I'm rather if I were not hating them, then I'd be rather excited about this team. Blackwood is good, and I think you're off base with the Bernier thing. He had a .914 save percentage on Detroit last year in 24 games. So yeah, he had a good amount of games. .914 is outstanding for his situation. So I think they're banking on him translating that into, okay, you're on a little bit better team. Give us a .920. So that's probably not what's going to happen. But regardless of that, I look at the defense. Ty Smith is awesome. You got Dougie Hamilton going to transform the power play. That's going to be the key there. Jack Hughes on that top power play with Dougie Hamilton, I could see a marriage that could work there. Nico Hischier is going to be healthy this year. He missed basically all of last year, essentially. He came back so late, and then he was just kind of out of it. So, all of the professionals and pundits say Jack Hughes is going to be a 70-point guy because all the underlying numbers are like, this guy, he's ready. He's going to pop. He's ready to go. So that has to happen. And everyone else has to be pretty good, and I think you got a team on the up and up here, and they're not going to be any better than 7 because the division's so good, but I think they deserve to be a 6 kind of team in other divisions. So yeah, they're going to be fun. They're going to be fun. I can't wait for New York to beat on them.
I have New Jersey at 7 as well. Unanimity so far in this division.
In the hardest one.
Yeah, you're asking way too much of this team if you think they're going to finish higher than 7, and that's at the end of it. Yes, Jack Hughes has good underlying numbers. His zone entries are great, but you need somebody who can put the puck in the back of the net. And Thomas Tatar, I'm sorry, but you're not that guy, pal.
No.
So I think you're asking too much from this team to finish higher than 7th. I love Dougie Hamilton as an addition, but you need a big guy in front of the net who can tip pucks because that's what Dougie Hamilton does best is he throws the puck at the net and it gets through. Goaltending, I like Blackwood. Bernier, like I'm telling you, he must be the most likable person in the league. There's got to be something because he keeps finding jobs and he's a good goaltender, but this is crazy. I'm definitely biased as a Leafs fan, having watched him in Toronto, but yeah. So Devils at 7. They're not good enough, and that's probably the one sentence sum up of this team.
Yet.
Okay, this is where things get interesting. Where you look at the list and you struggle a little.
This is tough.
Number 6, Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow.
Yeah. That's where I have them because I don't know. I like everyone at this table here today ranks certain things ahead of other things in terms of what they value in a team. And for me, goaltending is really, really important, especially when there's so much parity in this division. And the golden question is, can Martin Jones get back what he had? Apparently, it's the old goalie coach he had that's going to be with him there, the one he had in LA when he actually earned that contract he got from San Jose. So that's a big one. Because Carter Hart's not playing all these games, especially what you saw last year. Like the workload did a lot against him, and just those numbers were abysmal. Kyle would know as much as anybody. You're not going to keep him.
He sunk my year.
Yeah, he could have been a keeper for you. He had everything, but he's definitely not going to be your keeper after last year.
Yeah, I took him in a pretty plum spot too.
That too. So the goaltending is suspect, which I can't say about the other teams I have ahead of this team. And that for me is like my thesis. That's my main statement with this team. But the rest is fine. Like it's still a solid team. Like by any other account, like in the Pacific Division, this team's probably a playoff team. But like it's a tough division, and I think goaltending is going to play a big role, and they don't have it compared to the teams ahead of them. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on them.
Number 6.
I have them 6.
I have them 6 as well. So we're consensus right now in the toughest division. I'll second a lot of those notions. They're just, and it's funny because you look at the names on this defense, and like you can honestly say they're pretty good names, but their total lack of buy-in from last year, their complete and utter disregard for anything defense was just jarring. Like it wasn't all Carter Hart. This guy was getting shelled to bits. When I tuned in for a game to see, should I drop this guy? It was so ugly. They were getting shots right between the circles, left, right, and center. I know there's new bodies, but you kind of wonder, is there like a disconnect with the coach there from the mainstays on the team? And then I just look at the roster up front. It's like I used to be excited with this team when Nolan Patrick was young and we had this new guard coming in, but Morgan Frost is on there, and we've got Farabee, who I actually really like. But what's Claude Giroux going to be? It's just, and the defense, the depth on offense is not anything inspiring either. So the division's too good for them to do better is my main point there. That's it for me. Philly is going to be just a bleh kind of team.
Yeah, I think you can look at last year after the success they had in the bubble and ask, did we see the real Philly last year, or was that a blip? And I think you saw a little bit of the real Philly. They made some great additions on defense in Ryan Ellis and Rasmus Ristolainen. They overpaid a little bit for Risto, but
big time, yeah.
But he's still a serviceable defenseman. And so the question becomes, can Hart perform? And I think it was a tough year for him. You could see that he was lacking confidence. You could see that in the way he was playing. And if he gets it back, he can be good. But this team in this division just isn't quite good enough. I wonder how much of it gets put on Vigneault, because he also coached Rangers teams that were good teams, but they couldn't quite find success, right?
Yeah.
So you have to wonder at the end of the day how much of that gets put on him if they don't succeed again this year. Mm-hmm. They'll be an interesting team to watch, but I have them rate 6th as well.
So we're consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, this is tough here.
Very tough. It's getting heated.
It's getting hot. I'm gonna go, unfortunately, to the man sitting to my right, the New York Rangers.
Oh, fucking. You're in this.
They're still, just like with Colorado, how you said it's not their time. Not quite their time yet. I think there's still a culture change with Gerard Gallant going in there. There's going to be a bit of an adjustment period. They're not going to be instantaneously great out of the gate. And I still think they got a lot of kids growing, like Keandre Miller, who they're asking to be a top 4D. He's still growing. Like he's not a veteran by any stretch. And Lafreniere, obviously, last year, the soap opera he's still growing.
He's cooked. He's done.
Kakko continues to still have to grow. Kraftstov is his first, little stint in the NHL. So how's that going to play out? One thing I have them ahead of Philly is Igor Shesterkin's a star. Mm-hmm. Like that kid's a star. And Georgiev, he's a great backup. So the goaltending is amazing, and that's why I have them ahead of Philly. And as much as Philly has more veterans and this team is more youth inspired, I think the high end players on this team are better. Like I think Zibanejad and Panarin are again, just like with Edmonton, top 10 fantasy players, arguably. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot to like. Their top end, there's a lot to like. They have the Norris Trophy winner. I don't know if you saw that in practice, but he's got the Norris on his back of his jersey. Bit of a flex. Big flex there. And they got the goalie. So they're starting to turn the corner. It's very exciting in Rangers land, but I have them outside of that tier, that four, that tier of 4.
So I might go off the board here. I have at 5 Carolina Hurricanes, the goofiest franchise, the most Mickey Mouse franchise in the entire league. There's a lot to like here, don't get me wrong, especially when I look at an Andrei Svechnikov. I wonder where this guy should go in drafts, because he could very well be a 90-point guy or he could be a 60-point guy. So that's a tough read. You got Jesperi Kotkaniemi in the dumbest fucking way you possibly could have. I think we went into this on the last show a little bit, so I don't want to go too hard, but this guy's going to be a third-line left winger making like $6.1 million, and that will stop you from getting assets at the deadline. Like, as much as it's such a fun, cool move to do, you're shooting yourself in the foot at the deadline. You got a guy named Tony D'Angelo. What's that going to fucking do for your room, you bunch of clowns? What are they thinking with this guy? So the defense to me suffers. Still a lot to like, but I mean, it just goes to show what the other teams are how good they're going to be. They have Freddie Anderson, which I think is a fucking brutal move, to be honest. I think behind this team, behind this defense, I'm sure he's going to be good, but doesn't inspire one lick of confidence in me personally. Rant is a great backup, but I think this team is just fucking la la land, fucking eating just mushrooms and having a good time on the ice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just am pissed off. They just piss me off so much. So I can't have them any higher than 5. I'm sorry.
So we're all going with different teams here, because at number 5 I have Pittsburgh, and there's going to be a bit of a trend in the way my 5 through 2 plays out in this division, because I have no faith in Tristan Jarry and net. I don't have faith in their goaltending, and that's really like these teams from 5 to 2, in my opinion, are all very close in terms of quality, but they don't have the goaltending, and their D. Like, I have good forwards, okay D, questionable goaltending, and that's why I have them 5. Crosby, I hope, will win another gold medal this year.
He will.
But other than that, I unfortunately see them missing the playoffs. Wait, no, at 5? No, I think they make the playoffs. Sorry, my bad, because the Atlantic, I think, is a real shit show this year. Oh, but yeah, Pittsburgh making the playoffs, but they're at 5.
Wow. That'll push Toronto out of the playoff.
We'll get into that. Number 4, I'll piggyback off that. I got the Pens as well. I see them I see them below the Washington, the Islanders, the Carolina for me. As so long as, again, you got Crosby and you got Malkin, you're still the playoff team. You still got Letang. But yeah, the goaltending definitely did not inspire a lot of confidence in that playoff series against the Islanders. They got straight up out goaltended by
oh my God, it hurt so bad.
It was it. Like, they outplayed them. They outplayed the Islanders. They just got out goaltended. Yeah. Like, those goalies just shit the bed.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like, they didn't fix it over the offseason, so maybe just those two trained, DeSmith and Jarry. Maybe they're going to come in with a different mindset this year. I don't know. But they're still solid. Like, this team's solid with those stars, and they'll be a playoff team. So they're just not as much. I don't get as much confidence as those other 3 teams I mentioned earlier. So Pitt 4 for me.
I also have Pitt 4. And yeah, you'd like to say, oh, address some of your needs, but they have like almost no assets to move. Like Burke and Hextall have just a horrible job to do there, because you have what you have, and you almost have to trot that out and just hope for the best, because you don't have any assets. It is what it is. So goaltending sucks. There's no getting around it. The defense, I'm not too bad on that defense. I think Pierre-Olivier Joseph will come in and bring a little bit more offensive punch behind a guy like Letang. I know Marino's pretty good, but we mentioned having Crosby and Malkin. Malkin's out for several months, so that's going to hurt big time. But they're no stranger to losing Malkin. So then you look at Crosby. He just had fucking wrist surgery, so he's going to be out until maybe mid-October. So now you're looking at Jeff Carter fucking manning your top unit right now. Some guy named Radim Zahorna in the 2 slot. And then, like, you lose... McCann was a big piece of them last year. That you lose that. Tanev was a huge piece. When I watch Pittsburgh games, this guy is the Zach Hyman for Pittsburgh. Yep. He's the straw that stirs the drink. He's a wrecking ball. He's fast as fuck. He might be their fastest player. Straight up. So they're going to suffer big time. But they're going to have Crosby for most of the season, and I think that's good enough to have them 4, because we always say they're going to falter. and they always surprise us. They fucking won the division last year. What is going on here? So very confusing, but it's just when is the needle going to drop on this? And really quick, did you hear about that secret Olympic practice in Montreal?
Oh, where Crosby and McDavid were on the same line?
God damn. Why are we not getting this news? Like, how is this so secretive where Marner and McKinnon are on one line and Crosby and fucking McDavid are on another? Like,
Yeah, where's Chris Johnson, the insider on that one?
oh my God. That was, yeah.
That was unnecessary.
Seriously, he's got to be patrolling that Montreal. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. That's going to give Crosby a bit more motivation, I'm sure, because this is maybe his last dance at the Olympics. So we'll see. But I'm not. It's going to be hard to watch this team. It really is.
At 4, I have the Canes. They had a risky offseason with Kotkaniemi, D'Angelo, and Anderson as some of their big ads, and they lost Dougie Hamilton. So I'm not entirely sold that they'll be as good as they were last year, but they kept the forward core for the most part together, which is good. They brought in Ian Cole, who is great. I think that's a good ad on the back end. But yeah, their goaltending is a question mark with Ranta and Anderson, and I don't see them being good enough to be ahead of the 3 teams I have in front of them. So Canes at 4.
Okay.
Number 3, I will go with the Washington Capitals. Perennial playoff team, perennial good regular season team. If you're making bets, lame. I mean, if you're making bets in Vegas, who's making the playoffs? This is like, again, one of those teams, right? They're just in a streak. So long as Ovi's in the league, they're just always going to make it. But there's still some head scratchers here. Like I don't buy their goaltending as well as the 2 teams I have ahead of them, like a Vitek Vanacek and and the other guy, like Ilya Samsonov. I just don't buy that pairing just yet. I think it showed in the playoffs, in their loss to Boston. So I don't know. There's a lot of things I like, like the forward group. So long as you have you're gonna get a full year of Anthony Mantha. That's gonna be interesting. Like, that's going to be very interesting because he was hot when he just got there. Then he cooled off. So I want to know what he can do with a full year under his belt. So long as you have Tom Wilson, you're a competing team. They're solid. They're going to have that great power play as always. They're just bland. They don't there's just, I don't know, same old, same old. They'll make the playoffs, and that'll be that.
Number 3. New York Rangers are going to be a lock for the playoffs. This is it's a young roster. It's a super young roster, but the pieces they have in place, those unproven and proven, are very attractive. We mentioned Igor Shesterkin being a really great young goaltender. This is his year to solidify that number 1 status and put up good numbers. The defense is super intriguing. Adam Fox just won the Norris. This guy's a stud. I watched a ton of Rangers games, so I've got a good scouting report on these guys. He's a very, very talented guy, offensively and defensively, just very smart, very Harvard. And then Keandre Miller, you mentioned, he was inconsistent, but at times I was like, this guy is just a full-on stud. He's a huge guy, very mobile, smart. He's just a really good guy. Trouba and Lindgren are those stabilizing pieces, those larger, more physical defensemen. Nils Lundqvist is a prospect coming in who is an absolute stud in the Swedish league, and he's a high billing kind of player as well. And then you get to the forwards, and there's a ton to be excited about in the top 6. I don't have to go into how much I love the player whose jersey I'm wearing right now, number 13, on the right side now. So they're going to try him on the right side because there's just Kreider, Panarin, and Lafreniere on left. It's a lot. So they're going to try him there. They're going to start with a first line, including Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and probably Kreider, which is going to be sweet. So and then you have Panarin and Strome, who had good connection last year. And Panarin, he's underrated, man. Like he's been a perennial near 100-point guy. Mm-hmm. So this guy still goes under the radar. Capo Caco didn't put up the offensive numbers that we wanted to see from him yet, but he was actually shockingly good defensively. So I know that's not really where he wants to be, but he's very responsible in that role. So that's good. And then you add depth players like Barclay Goodrow, who just won a cup. And yes. And then you have Philip Sheedle and Kravtsov, who are third-line guys. They're going to be able to chip in here and there with some youth scoring. So there's so bloody much to be excited for. This is going to be my team to watch. I've been analyzing every piece of news from camp. And I predict breakouts from Lafreniere, of course. And I think Kakko will take a big step as well. But just so much to like here. And the roster speaks for itself. You know, even if these two players don't particularly hit star status just yet, it's a great roster.
Yeah, so at number 3, I have the Caps as well. They have better defensemen and goaltending than Pittsburgh, and that for me puts them ahead of them. And then the Canes with their risky offseason. So the Caps slide up a little bit more. My question will be how many goals does Ovechkin score, because he's been so consistent for them. And he is getting older, and I think we'd all love to see him approach Gretzky's record before the end of his career and hopefully break it. But if he regresses this year, that could really harm their chances. They're just such a big team. Yeah. They're big.
Yeah.
And so it's hard in a division that's going to be this competitive to vote against a team that will make you hurt every time you play them. So I have them at 3.
Will Josh keep Ovechkin?
For sure.
I don't know.
He traded up in the draft just to get him. Of course he's going to keep it. Yeah, and you won that trade. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, number 2. New York Islanders. Yeah.
Oh my God.
What? They're just I don't know. They're more of a playoff team. I think that's where their true colors show. But they're still going to make the playoffs because they're just the most resilient, identity-filled team in the league. They'll come in every game with the same approach. If you're another team playing this team, you probably fucking hate playing this team. Yeah, you know, like it's like fuck, we got to play the Islanders tonight.
For hockey.
Fuck this guy. Yeah, like it's just like totally a head scratcher having to play this team, and it all starts from the back end, like those 2 goalies flipping back, Varlamov and Sorokin. They're going to be great, and the system of the team's going to cater to them. And then the arguably the most defensive pairing in the league, Pelech and Pollock. I know a lot of people are saying that'll be Team Canada. Maybe they'll bring those guys in for Team Canada, and then that'll be a shutdown line. So I just it's Chara recently in the past few weeks. It's Chara. So that's a pretty good fit. Because like heavy team, very defensive oriented. That's all that guy does. He doesn't lead any offense. He doesn't move the puck. He doesn't man a power play. So it's kind of a fit. Scott Mayfield had a really good postseason. I think he showed why he's a reliable guy there. And then up front, they'll get a full year out of JG Pageau. Guys like Bavillier, again, said it before on the show, can't be any worse than last year. He'll have a solid year. I don't think they'll miss Eberle a whole lot much when you got guys like Oliver Wahlstrom breaking in, and they still got that 4th line, Martin, Cizikas, Clutterbuck. It's a solid team.
I'll make it super quick. I got Washington at number 2 begrudgingly just because I'm so fucking tired. And by the way, you got it wrong. This is my least favorite team in the league.
Wow.
Yeah, by
a true Pittsburgh fan.
Country mile. By a country mile. I fucking hate this team, and I'm not going to say anything else.
All right. Done. So I got the Rangers at 2. I think Gerard Gallant was the most important addition they could have made this offseason.
Yes.
All season last year, watching them play and just thinking that David Quinn was not deploying these players the right way.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And it bothered me to see a lot of these skilled players, young players, not getting the opportunities and seemingly getting handcuffed. Now, I don't know what was going on behind closed doors, but as somebody watching the games, I wanted to see the young players get more of an opportunity. It sounds like they will under Gallant. They have great goaltending. Adam Fox did just win the Norris, and I think Keandre Miller continues to take steps forward. So I think coaching will make a huge difference, and that's why I have them 2nd in this division.
Yeah, too much ego stroking by Quinn last year. What an idiot. How do you draft a guy 1st overall and he doesn't see power play time? What is that about?
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. Not a lick of power.
That's still shocking though, like how you think a coach can really you can go from 6th in the standings to 2nd just over a coach.
Yep. And young development.
I don't know. We're gonna find out. I still they're still young and developing. I guess we'll get a good look at them when we see them on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deployment is such a huge thing in the NHL these days, and you saw it like the change from Babcock to Keefe, for example, in the numbers that you were seeing from certain players, and it really makes a difference. I think Gallant compared to Quinn will find a way to utilize these players a little bit better. You saw what he did in Vegas. He gave players who didn't have the opportunity an opportunity, and they surprised everyone except for potentially Gerard Gallant.
As a coach, he's always had a good finger on the pulse of the team, on the rudder, like who's going, who's not going. David Quinn, it was so unpredictable what he was doing night in and night out. Going into every game, I was like, what the hell is he going to do today? Yeah. Like, what bullshit concoction is he going to throw into the laundry machine this time?
It was a blunder the whole time.
Oh, yeah. The whole time. It was a real shitstorm there. So I think this will bring more structure, more stability. Guys will have more fun playing in New York. Yep. I don't disagree. I just think they're not quite ready yet.
It's such an impressive roster.
They're an exciting team. That's why we're seeing them. They're very exciting. Number 1, Carolina Hurricanes. Absolutely love this team. I just top to bottom, they just check all the boxes for me. I think their top 9 is incredible. Trocheck, Teravainen, Svechnikov, Stahl, Aho, Niederreiter, Marty Nikas. That's a guy who I slept on last year, and boy, did he show me a lot at the end of the year last year. And then you add Kotkaniemi. It's very complete team. Defense, Jacob Slavin is a top 5 defensive defenseman. He's always going to be. Brett Pesce, great. Brady Shea, great. Ian Cole, they brought him in. He's a very stabilizing kind of guy. D'Angelo, say what you want, but at the very least, he will help the power play, which he's only going to help. Even manning that Rangers power play, he just moves the puck really well, man. Take all the personal stuff out of this. Let's talk about the hockey player. Let's put our Mark Bergevin caps on.
Shut the fuck
Let's
up.
do that. Let's do that for a second. This guy he just gets it. He knows how our power play should be run. He moves the puck he runs a power he just runs it really, very well. And right now he's slotted to be on their first power play with the big boys. So and then I think the goaltending for once, this is why my complexion of this team has changed, because it's always been the goaltending that I've been sour on, and I really think for the longest time I've wanted Freddie Anderson to play for a defensive-oriented team, and this is the first time. The Leafs were never that. I don't care what the analytics community says, they were never that, and they let him out to dry a lot. I know he had his bad starts in the playoffs, but over the regular season, he's been a good goalie. And Antti Raanta is a very serviceable backup. So I think they just get it. I will be getting Freddie Anderson in our draft this year.
By all means.
Yep, let me have him.
Means.
And
take him number 4 round.
Yep,
round.
yeah, I'll take him 4th round, sure. And I think that's where he's going. He's going early, actually. He's going really early.
That's brutal, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is my top team.
Okay, my top team is the Islanders. For obvious reasons, the 4th line, that consistent, steady defensive presence. Barzal is one of my favorite players in the league. He's such an exciting talent. The goaltending will come back, be strong. Defense is good. What else can you really say? Noah Dobson actually is one to look at, because they're looking for a guy to really man that top power play unit. They're looking for a replacement for Leddy, and Dobson is going to be that first choice. He's going to get a look there. Nice. So we'll see. Keep an eye on him in fantasy. I wouldn't say draft him in a decent spot, but definitely keep an eye late rounds or free agent pickup early on.
Yep. Yeah, I've got the Islanders here as well. You got Barry Trotz. You have a huge decor, and you just added Zdeno Chara to it. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah.
And then up front, yeah, you've got some great players, and they held on to Palmieri, who they traded for at the deadline. They added Zach Parise, who can still play and got buried in Dean Evanson's system, which was one of my issues with the Minnesota Wild last year. And Nick brought up Oliver Wahlstrom, who's going to be stepping in as well. I just think you look at this team, and top to bottom, they are a complete team. They have a great tandem. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the President's Trophy this year, but they are not my pick.
Mm-hmm.
So before we turn to the most interesting, captivating division, for obvious reasons, so who are the playoff teams here? Like for me, it's just Carolina Islanders, Capitals, Pens. I don't have the Rangers as a playoff team. So so who do you guys have?
I have Islanders, Washington, Rangers, and Pitt.
I have my top 5, which is Islanders, Rangers, Caps, Canes, Pitt.
Wow. So, Nick, do you have the Rangers making the playoffs? They're 5 for you, right?
They're 5, and they're
Missing
the
out on
last
the
team
wild
not
card.
making it.
Right.
They're just missing. So yeah, we'll turn finally to the Atlantic Division. Some local flavor.
East is so hard. I can't wait for like a Pittsburgh to be battling like a Toronto or Boston for a wild card.
Yeah,
It's
it'll be
gonna
fun.
Really fascinating.
Number 8 in the Atlantic, the dumpster fire that is the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, it's the most sad. When I see Dylan Cousins as your first line center, I just like, ugh.
He's not ready for such a role.
Yeah,
What, are you gonna give him the C as well?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
what are you
right?
guys doing?
What a joke. This team, just looking top to bottom, joke.
Scary.
Yeah,
Don't
Jeff.
be an ass.
I have no. I can't not be an ass because I'm just looking at their team and I'm just like, this is such horseshit. Like, Jeff Skinner is on your first line again, even though he's proven he's not that. Casey Middlestat's your second line center. Cousins and Middlestat, your top 2 centers. Good luck. Good luck going against Matthews and Tavares with that. Or Bergeron.
Stop.
Bergeron's gonna muck Dylan Cousins.
No, he won't.
Barkov.
The workhorse from Whitehorse.
This is just sad. Darlene doesn't even want to be there. He signed a 3-year deal, very short term. I think that's why.
Such an ass.
This is just sad. I have no, and then fuck me. Like when they signed Craig Anderson, I was like, this is a joke. This is such a joke. Like
Wow.
how's this guy in the league?
He's
And
good.
we saw in that he played in the Washington series against Boston. It was so sad. It was like watching a beer league goalie who couldn't.
Oh, stop.
It's like a guy who gets into butterfly and then he has a hard time getting up.
Okay. He was good
Holy shit.
Yeah.
He had some moments, but he was bad. And then Aaron Dell's your backup. This reminds me of that team back when they were tanking for McDavid. This is tanking for Shane Wright. I thought that management team was gone, and I thought they were done with that. I thought they had more like integrity than that. But this is the definition of we're tanking for Shane Wright. And I can't back that. Like I can't back that. I started liking their management group more, but I can't back this. Let's just field a shitty ass team. Let's literally sign the shittiest men's league goalie out there, and lead us to losing every game. This is going to be so sad. I feel terrible for those fans in Buffalo. This is a catastrophe.
So I have Ottawa coming 8th.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, boys. It's going to be Buffalo coming 8th. Jack Eichel will be a great member of this team. That's my big prediction.
Damn.
No, I'm kidding with that too. No, bad becomes worse. However, you mentioned a lot of shitty things, and I respect that. I respect that totally. But I want to look at some good things. I do like Cousins in the future as a good, solid number 2C perhaps. You have sniper Jack Quinn coming up. You have JJ Peterka, who had a great camp. You have Owen Power just cooking in college right now. Yeah. So that's good. You still have Darlene. I think he's due for a bit of a bounce back, and he's going to be, he's going to be a staple going forward so long as he stays. You also, and we have to factor this in, take this roster with a grain of salt because all you're doing is taking Jack Eichel out. When Jack Eichel inevitably does get moved, you're going to get a good return, and you have to factor that into what you see in this organization. It's probably going to be a strong return when it does come. You're going to have some first rounders. And then, Mike, when I do fast forward into a year, and I know they have that top 3 pick in this coming draft, and I know they have the assets from Eichel, and I know they have these pieces that we see, it's not too bad of an outlook down the road.
Yeah, I I don't think you can put any other team than Buffalo at dead last, not only in this division but in the league.
Yeah,
and it's disappointing, and I feel really bad for Buffalo fans because they've had to put up with this for way too long. They did this to try to get McDavid, they missed. And now they're doing it again to get Shane Wright. And if they miss, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And as a Shane Wright fan, I don't want to see him on this team because I don't see long-term upside to what they're doing. And
despite everything you just said.
I like
sell the fans, yeah.
I like some of their players, but it's going to take a lot more than just getting Shane Wright to turn this ship around. And I think there are losing habits that have been developed. There are players who are very frustrated with how management has handled the Eichel situation. Players that left who have been very vocal about how management handled the Eichel situation. I believe Jake McCabe came out in support of Jack Eichel, talking about how they're trying to paint him as a bad leader, but that wasn't the case. It's a really difficult time to be a Sabres fan. I don't see it getting any better for at least a few years, and I think that by trying to do the rebuild again the same way, they haven't learned their lesson.
Okay. Detroit Red Wings number 7. I anticipate this will be unanimous again. They're on the rise, but
slowly but surely.
Yeah, Nedeljkovic they got from Carolina. That he's gonna win them some games, and he'll be in good shape. But for the most part, they're still growing. Like I thought about a guy like Philip Zadina the other day. We haven't talked about him often, but he was tucked in with all those other guys who were drafted, right?
Yeah.
What draft class was he?
2018.
So who are the other guys you could have had? I gotta pull this up. Like, it's a fascinating draft, and like
18, yeah.
It's a. I just want to put into context where the guys around him are.
Yes.
Because I've like slept on him. Like Philip Zina went 6. So Deline 1, Svechnikov 2, Kotkaniemi 3, Kachuk 4, Zadina Hayden 5, Zadina 6. And then since then we've had Hughes at 7, Bouchard at 10, Wallstrom 11, Ty Smith 17, Keandre Miller 22.
So the jury's still out on a lot of
those guys, but he's kind of the neck. Like he'll be leading that charge, so to speak, of that class we just spoke of. So yeah, I mean the big thing is they could have had Quinn Hughes, right? And they passed on him, and this guy Zadina hasn't had many reps in the NHL. Jury's still out, so that I want to see what a full year will be of him, and I also want to see what a full year will be of Moritz Seider, right? Like so that was 2019.
That was.
And let me take a look at that really quick, because that's another guy I'm anxious to see how he does. So Hughes 1, Kako 2, Doc 3, Byram 4, Turcotte 5, Seider 6, Cousins 7, Zegras 9, Podkolzin 10, Boldy 12,
Wow, a lot of talent in that draft.
Caulfield 15, Newhook 17. Very good draft. Tomasino 24.
Very good draft.
A lot of guys who took a year or two before they made the leap, but a lot of talent.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, rightfully so. Lots of guys still to pan out. How does Turcotte do at 5? How does Seider do at 6? Even though the Cousins and the Zegrases and the Kakos were kind of seeing what they are. So, yeah, again, I want to follow this team. They're like the Anaheim of this division. They're still boring, but they have like 2 kind of guys who I'll be following very, very often, So that's my motivation to watch them, but they have no business playing against these more upper echelon teams in this division. So there you go.
No, and they are a team that I wish was farther along in the rebuild. Like they are going so slow and sure. But you mentioned Mo Seider. Like this guy is a super dark horse to win the Calder. Everyone says he's probably the best defenseman overall outside of the NHL. Like this guy is super, super legitimately deserves to be number 6, maybe even higher. Like right now, if you were to poll a bunch of GMs who would rather have Bo Byram or Mo Seider, they're probably taking Seider. as of right now in terms of what they've done. So that's going to be a really big point. He's going to be a huge pivot point for them. But, you've got Larkin on the top line. You've got the anti-vaxxer in Tyler Bertuzzi, who's going to miss all the Canadian games.
I'm okay with that.
What is that about, man? And one guy I need to pinpoint before I move on is Jake Verana. He had a really explosive time with Detroit the short time he was there. And if you factor that out through a whole season, I think it's a sneaky fantasy pick right there. And they're going to need him to, sell some tickets there because it's going to be it's a bland team. Like, I'm not excited about any of this. If Mo Seider's good, it's not going to be because he's putting up a bunch of points. It's going to be because he's a solid D-man. So it's not a lot to watch.
Yeah, so I have Detroit 7 as well, and this team to me feels a lot like Ottawa the year that they traded away Stone. I think there's the old guard from the previous crack at it that they have there, and they didn't see the same success that Ottawa did. But I think players like Larkin, Bertuzzi, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they find their way out the door over the next couple of seasons. They're still young guys, but I think we're about to see an injection of youth into this team. Lucas Raymond, Mo Seider, eventually Simon Edvinsson. Hopefully Zadina can find his form.
Kosa. They just got Kosa as well.
Yeah. And potentially one of the top offensive prospects from this year's draft. I could see Shane Wright landing here and doing really well under the guidance of Stevie Y.
That would be, and they've been burned a couple times in the
They have
lottery,
been,
so
yeah.
they deserve this.
Plus, as I was saying to Nick before the show, hockey's always better when Detroit is doing well.
Oh.
They are a great hockey market, and I think they're turning the corner. But just like Ottawa, they've got a few more years of pain before they start to see success.
Mm-hmm. That would be that would be my maybe ideal right landing spot. Detroit. That'd be so cool.
For LA.
No.
Play with Grant Clark.
No. God no.
We shall see.
LA will be too good for that.
Number 6.
Number 6.
Pierre Maguire's first stint as a
Have some more
assistant
faith, will
GM.
ya?
Yeah, he'll be outside of the playoffs, but I think that's to be expected from Pierre. Poor Pierre. But it is what it is. I mean, they're growing, and they're gonna be that shit disturbing team in this division. Like, you're gonna play Ottawa, and they're gonna play hard, and they're gonna give you a tough game, and they're not gonna win enough games to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, I think they'll come close, but they will be like those shit disturbers every night, and they're not gonna make things easy, and I just think like they have so many pieces, like Tim Stützle, obviously, Josh Norris. Batherson, and then Kachuk's probably. It's only a matter of time before he's named captain, right? Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
They have the pieces in place, and on defense, I want to see. I want to see. Is he going to play Sanderson? Is he going to get any reps this year?
I don't think so.
Fuck me. Maybe at the end of the year.
Good. It's good.
I know. They want him to be like Cale Makar, right? Get that extra year of college.
Yeah.
That's the comparison. That's the model now. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. I think the one glaring hole is like the goaltending, right? Like Matt Murray still hasn't shown he can capture that same glory he had in the cup runs. Mm-hmm. And I think like Anton Forsberg, I don't know. And they lost that really good goalie to Seattle. Decord, right? Joey Decord. Like that kid had a lot of potential, high character guy. He had that interview on Sportsnet where everyone just adored him. And they lost him to Seattle, so tough for them. But we'll see what happens here. They're gonna field a competitive team every night. They just won't be good enough to make the playoffs. So they're still growing, and they'll be in the Shane Wright runnings for sure.
Yeah, I'll keep the consensus going. Ottawa for sure is in that spot, although I could seriously see them making a bit more noise. Like this is a team we know they have some skill. They also have a lot of sandpaper too. They just got Zach Sanford. They have Austin Watson. Brady Tkachuk is like the definition of sandpaper. So things could break the right way, and I could see them doing a bit better than people think. Other than that, I mean, they're just going to be a lot of fun to watch, and Timmy Stützle's development will be completely on the shoulders of Pierre Maguire. If this guy doesn't blow up this year, we know who to blame. It's super fascinating. And it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm not sure you're going to get your sound bites, Nick, but I really hope they get a microphone in front of the fucking guy every so often.
I think that
I don't think they're too smart to do that. I think they know what he is. They know he's a liability. It's like we want the hockey mind that is Pierre Maguire in the back. You know, we'll bury him in the basement with one of those detective boards. Like he's putting the pins in the papers and he's doing all this detective work, but they're not letting him out of the basement. It's like you're locked in the basement. Mm-hmm. You can see your wife and kids every so often, but that's it. That's it. So we have the mind of Pierre, but we're not letting that man get in front of a camera or a microphone under any circumstances. And I think we've seen that so far. Like we would have heard from him by now.
Yeah.
So like if he makes a first public appearance,
especially at camp, right?
Yeah. I'll be very surprised if we see a public appearance from him anytime soon.
Can I just say one more thing? Drake Batherson, sneaky upside to get 30 goals.
What about Josh Norris?
Good, very good centers, 60 to 65 points.
This Ottawa team is taking all the right steps. Connor Brown, Nick Paul, and Jacob Bernard-Docker were on the Team Canada World Championship winning team. They've gotten a taste for winning. They went on a great streak to end the season last year. They did. They're taking the right steps. There's a lot of excitement around this team. I think goaltending is a big question mark, but if Matt Murray puts together a year, they could make a push. Absolutely. I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs. I think they need Sanderson to step in. They need that extra piece on the back end, and they need a top center. It doesn't have to be a number one center because they do have some depth down the middle, but they need somebody to step up. And if they can do that, then I could really see them making some noise. They're a good team. They're doing the right things. I have them at 6, but they could be better.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on to see if Stützle starts migrating a little bit to the middle, a little bit more. They have played him almost solely on the wing last year, I should say. So we'll keep an eye on that.
All right.
That's the plan at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. He could have a very good year. Like in fantasy, we'll see how he does, you know?
Yeah.
They're a very under the radar fantasy team. Like they have guys who people are going to sleep on. Yeah. And inevitably, someone's got to get the points and the goals there, right? So it's a matter of, other than Tkachuk, who's going to do that, and those are going to be the fantasy guys.
Yeah.
Moving on, much to Kyle's chagrin, the Montreal Canadiens are my 5 seed. And it pains me to say this because I do have a newfound respect for them after that playoff run. There's so much character on this team with the way they beat Vegas. They beat the best team in the league in my mind. And that I applaud them. That's an amazing achievement. And I think a guy like Hoffman is what they need. Like there's very few places in the league that need Hoffman, but this was one of those teams because the power play in this organization was putrid. And in the playoffs, it was as if every time they got a power play, it was like, all right, it's 2 more minutes, we're not going to get scored on. But it wasn't like, oh, we're actually going to score. They didn't have any confidence, you know? And so that's the read I got on them. But they ended up not losing Jake Allen to Seattle. That was huge. So you got Price and Allen there still as your duo. That's going to win you games. And the defense, you add David Savard. Say what you want about David Savard, but he fits what they do there in Montreal very well. That style. He's very much a Marc Bergevin defenseman. Savard and Sherratt, it's like 2 heavier defensemen. Then you got your puck movers, your Petrie, your Romanov. Edmondson, as I predicted, fit like a glove there. Goaltending and defense is great there. Like I have nothing wrong with them. But it's that center depth without Kotkaniemi. It's really going to take a hit. I'm not as big a believer in Christian Dvorak. I don't know where he's getting all this play as a guy who's worth what they paid for him. And I'm curious to see how that pans out. Very much like Minnesota, right? Not a lot of guys down the middle, but they have very talented wingers, right? Like Armia, Gallagher, Anderson, Toffoli, Caulfield. How much can you get out of your wingers to make up for the lack of center depth? And it very much like Minnesota, like great D, good tandem. It's like they're almost a Minnesota model. I just think they're in a very tough division here. And I think they got their hands full, and I think they just miss. So I have Montreal 5, no playoffs.
Dick move. Very, very dick move. I have Toronto at 5. I actually do.
No.
I know, and that means they're missing, right? 'Cause you got the
Yes. So I have Toronto at 5. I don't like the left side. I don't have any faith in Nick Ritchie. I don't to put too much stock into Michael Bunting either, though he has a great first name. And that aside, I know the offense is good enough to negate all those problems. However, my big prediction for this team is that goaltending blows up. I think Jack Campbell's a good guy, good goalie, but I don't think he's going to handle the number one starter role very well. And mostly I'm just being a dick here because obviously I think there's a great chance they make the playoffs. But again, and I keep going back to this, do I put them over Boston, Florida, or Tampa? Certainly not. Boston, you could say probably you got a chance there. And I put more faith in Montreal because of what they just did. So it's going to be a wild and crazy division. This team, and I think Boston and Montreal are all going to be battling for the wild card spot. But I just see that goaltending being the Achilles heel. And
so
thank God for the fucking pizza.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the potential. Yeah, well, so the potential weakness in Toronto being the goaltending blowing up. At 5 for me, I have Montreal as well. And
get the 5.
Yeah.
You want a water or White Claw? What do you want?
Could I get a water mixed with White Claw?
That's
Okay, I'll have a white.
I'll take water,
White
please.
Claw.
Thank you. But yeah, Montreal, for a lot of the reasons why Nick had them there, which is that they are great on the wings, not so deep down the middle. And honestly, the one thing that I think Nick failed to mention is health. They are a team that has a lot of history of being banged up.
Fair. And
when they're healthy, they can be really good. And I think they have great goal-scoring potential this year. But when they aren't healthy, as we saw for stretches last year, they can get lit up. So with health as a concern, I think Montreal falls down to 5. They're starting the season without Hoffman and Price. But yeah, I think Montreal at 5, and they missed the playoffs, not because they're a bad team, but because the Metro is just way too strong.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute battle in this Atlantic, and I think that's what makes this year so bloody exciting.
Yeah, it's funny because a couple years ago, the Atlantic was seen as probably the most boring division because you knew who was going to win it. You had Boston, you had Toronto, and you had Tampa. And with the emergence of Florida and Montreal over the past couple of years, it does make it a little bit more exciting. It makes it probably the most intriguing division in hockey this year, and that's completely East Coast bias. Thank you. But I think the Atlantic is going to be a fun division to watch. I'm going to be tearing my hair out. I'll be bald by the end of this year. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun and yeah, a great season of hockey.
Can I add one more thing to my Toronto take? Is that I don't think guys like Mitch Marner like it in Toronto anymore. I think there's something to do with that a little bit for Matthews as well. They've taken so much fucking shit. How can they be satisfied where they are?
I don't understand how a fan base can truly turn on a guy who consistently puts up over 100 points or projects to put up over 100 points. Yeah. It's just, anyways, we'll talk about this more as Nick and I get to Toronto as well. Yes, but they are a team that just... It blows my mind that these players take the amount of flack they do from Toronto fans. And people are complaining about not winning a cup since 67. Maybe players would stick around more if you weren't, trolling them on Twitter and forcing them to go private.
No, seriously, we'll get into it more later, but I can't imagine he's happy being there, playing there anymore. I can't imagine.
Well, this is a very important juncture of the show. So you have Toronto for a lot of the reasons you don't like Toronto. You don't need to. I already know that. And you have Montreal for a lot of the reasons I kind of said about Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and no, and number 4, I'll continue the conversation. I have Toronto. So, yeah.
Very spicy.
Yeah, I think they're just going to get in. I think there's going to be a lot of drama. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. It's going to be a fast... again, I said at the end of last year, I'm not going to watch. Yeah?
So good.
It's so good. White Claw, mango and raspberry. Fantastic. Yeah, like, I wasn't going to watch the regular season because I was just like, okay, they're going to make the playoffs and then I'll judge them. But in this division, I seriously think they will struggle to make the playoffs. Like, the goaltending doesn't really assure me very much. Like, Peter Mrazek's like not a great goalie.
No.
And like Jack Campbell's had a very short shelf life. You know, like I need to see a larger sample size. And I just want to see how this team does, especially without Zach Hyman. Like, that is one of the few, like him and Morgan Riley are like two players that I like looked at that team and I was like, night in, night out, I know what these guys are going to give me. High character. And one guy's gone, and the other guy, by the sounds of it, might be gone at the end of this year as well. And this is the end. Like that would be the end for me as far as like this culture change. Like that would be Austin Matthews fully solidifying himself on this team if those guys leave, and that would not make me a happy camper. So
Yeah.
I agree. Like Nick Ritchie, I don't love Nick Ritchie. Like in Boston,
God, no.
in Boston, he had an occasional good shift. He'd be the net front guy on the power play with those big boys. He'd produce some points in fantasy for me, but like he's not Hyman.
It should have worked in Boston for him. He's a Boston type of guy.
And the fact it didn't
is
it's like they desperately looked for like they lost Hyman, and then out of desperation they were like, "Fuck, we got to find someone." Mm-hmm. And then they fucking handed the paycheck to Nick Ritchie. That's what it sounded like.
Because they're cap strapped for whoever else they could get.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I like Ilya Mikheyev, but like I don't feel like they're giving him a fair shake. Like I actually like Mikheyev more than Nick Ritchie. I think he's got more game. And we'll see. I think he's the X factor. Like either he gets into the top 6 or he doesn't. And depending on what he brings, I think he'll be a guy motivated by the Olympics. That Russian roster, we talk a lot about who can make that team, especially with all those wingers they have. This is a guy who will be competing for that. Spezza will bring it every game, but lots of question marks. Like Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
How's he gonna do? Mm-hmm. I mean, Kerfoot, they basically kicked him to the dirt and were prepared to lose him, and now they got to welcome him back. Mm-hmm. Like, it's very interesting there. And then the defense, is Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren ready to vault into everyday defensemen? Because that's what they're looking at. It's going to be Dermott, Sandy, and Liljegren as their kind of 5, 6, 7. Their top 4 is great, but that's it. So lots of question marks, lots of character issues, and ultimately the 3 teams ahead of them are more complete and don't have those same character issues. So that's why I have them. I have them 4, but I don't see it being like the city's gonna burn if they don't make the playoffs, because that's what's gonna happen. My next question for you, Kyle, was like, what like you're predicting them not to make it. So what happens after they don't make it in your reality?
Everything blows up. Everything blows up except for Matthews.
The world ends.
Matthews and Tavares will stay. Everything else will blow. So I'm gonna make a statement and then ask a question. My statement is Toronto just barely sneaking into the playoffs like you have predicted, I think could be the very best thing that could possibly happen to them. Them being like this, they had a fight to get in, and now they're the underdog again. I think that's where they break through. If that doesn't happen, it completely blows to hell. My question, I'd like one of you two, and this is out of my sheer ignorance, to fill me in on what exactly the Morgan Riley situation is.
I just think, like, Mike probably knows more, but like, it sounds like they're more prepared to lose him than I anticipated, just out of a salary cap perspective.
So he's got 1 year left.
Yeah. He's got 1 year left, and then when he gets on the market, you look at some of the comparable contracts that are like getting out there.
It's gonna be big.
He's gonna demand like $8 million probably. Like, he's not in that Seth Jones tier, but like he's definitely in that tier of guys. Like, what did Darlene get? Like 6 mil?
6 mil.
That's kind of, yeah. Well,
3 by 6.
maybe not. I don't really have a great comparison on the top of my mind, but the point is he's.
What about a Werenski?
Yeah, what did he get?
Like 9.
Exactly. So that's a good comparison. So like he's gonna want 8, right? Like something in that range. And frankly, the way this team's in salary cap purgatory, as we saw with Hyman, this might be that guy they lose. So that's the situation with Morgan. And frankly, like if they see Sandin as a guy who can be the PP1 guy, right? Which it looks like he had some power play. He ran the power play last night.
Whereas he got 9-5.
9-5, exactly. Like the 8 would be a good deal, but Riley might want more than that.
He very well might. Yeah.
Especially if especially like Sandin like might make Riley irrelevant on the power play. So
it's going to be crazy when the deadline's approaching and Riley's still on this team, like, and you're not in the playoff picture yet. Like, you have to keep him, I'd assume, and then maybe he walks for nothing, which is just a crazy stressful situation, obviously.
For sure. So, yeah, I'm very skeptical, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. So sorry. Yeah, number 4 for me in that dogfight. I have actually Boston. Obviously, I'd have them higher regularly, but they lost Krejci. They lost some key guys there. They did get Nick Foligno, which I really do enjoy. I think that's going to be a good fit. Taylor Hall working the second line kind of on his own. I'm skeptical how that works out. And then the goaltending is sort of up in the air as well. What I have here is Allmark and Swayman. So that's very unproven. That's going to be a huge question mark. So this could very well be the team that Toronto fights out and beats, but I have so much trust in that leadership, and I still think they have a little bit more to prove. So I think that I'll keep Boston at 4, but it's not good enough to beat Montreal for me.
So Boston for me was like a huge model of consistency over the past decade in the NHL. And you could look at their pillars being Rask, Chara, Bergeron, and Marchand. And over the past couple of years, and Krejci. And over the past few years, they lost Chara, they lost Rask, and they lost Krejci. And I don't think that they're done, because Bergeron is still way too good. Marchand has found another gear in the last 3 years of his career, and Pasternak is phenomenal. Getting Taylor Hall to stick around is great too, but I have them at 4 because I think with this turnover, with a new goalie who had great numbers in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But goalies can take some time to adjust to new teams and new systems. I'm not sure if he'll find the same success at the start of the season. I'm not sold on their center depth. So that's why I have them 4. But this Atlantic Division gets very crowded at the top. But yes, I have Boston at 4, and I think they make the oh no, I think I have them missing the playoffs because of the Metro. Yeah, because the strength of the Metro.
Wow.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh edging them out, just probably by a couple points, but Pittsburgh beating Boston for the last playoff spot.
Wow.
That's amazing. It's a tough reality. Like, again, they're one of those perennial teams, right? It's hard to envision Boston not making the playoffs. But yeah, number 3, I have Florida. I like a lot of what they've done. I think, like, teams that won the offseason, this is certainly one of them. I know Kyle's a huge Sam Reinhart fan, and that kind of came out of nowhere. You know, they got Sam Reinhart, re-signed Sam Bennett. Say what you want about the nature of the deal, but it seems he did fit like a glove there. Verhaeghe got a good deal, I think, in my opinion, and that's a guy who kind of came out of nowhere. Owen Tippett's going to have a whole year now. We're Owen Tippett fans here on the show. Yeah, Joe Thornton, that's a fucking mess. That guy should not be there. That's the one thing I'm like, fuck this team.
He better not see the ice.
Yeah. But I still like a lot of what they have here. Like, they're just a good, savvy veteran group. They're just led very well. Defensively, Ekblad.
Fucking love Ekblad. He'll be on the Olympic team.
Uyghur, Forsling. You got
Underrated.
big guys like, yeah, very underrated guys. Like, those guys, I had no idea who they were until, like, the latter stages of last year. Radko Gudas is like a 5'6" guy just to lay out some guys. They're a good, heavy veteran team. And the hope is Spencer Knight gets more games than Sergei Bobrovsky. And I think that management group and that coach are smart. they will do that because he proved in that Tampa series that he could hold his own against the best team in the league, and he did that. Like that wasn't the reason. The reason they lost that series was Bobrovsky, not Spencer Knight. Bobrovsky, yeah, he basically had to like salvage a really shite situation there. So I hope he gets more games, and if he does, that's a really low key fantasy steal. If you can get Spencer Knight, get that guy in our keeper league, get him late and keep that guy every year. If this is the future of Florida and they're going to be like a perennial playoff team, get all that Spencer Knight stock. So I like this team. I don't like them enough to have them like 1 or 2, but because I think like with new teams like this, with so many additions, it takes time for them to get going. But I like them nonetheless. So 3 Florida.
Okay, welcome back to the show. No, I'm kidding. So 3, I'll go with my Montreal Canadiens, and that's final. No, so yeah, we know all about the goaltending. I think it's going to be a 1A 1B split to keep Price fresh and healthy. So Allen would be an above average backup to get for sure in that case, because I think he's going to get some starts for sure. We lose Shea Weber. But someone on Montreal radio said it best: is it's not going to hurt you that bad simply because Shea Weber was pretty shit in the regular season last year. Like, it took the playoffs to really bring the best out of him, and it's because he's so worn down, he's so beat up. So they're going to be plenty happy to have him kind of rest for that time period. And then you look at the rest of the defense. I do love the addition of a David Savard. That is going to be almost, in terms of regular season performance, I think it's going to be an almost full replacement for Weber in that case. Edmondson, we know, was amazing. Petrie. See, that's the thing. If this team has a weakness, a glaring weakness, it will be that they don't have many puck-moving defensemen. Petrie will be your guy manning the top power play, and that is going to be, not an ideal situation, as we can probably agree. The other guys, they're going to play their playoff style. They're going to be the Ben Sherratts, the David Savards, shutting things down. So if they can will games to wins, like that, this is how I think they're going to become third, is they're going to find a way to win. They're going to find a way, okay, if we need 2 consecutive wins here, we're going to play that playoff style. We're going to lock it down, which they've shown they can absolutely do. If you look at the center depth, we were talking about, yes, losing Danault hurts big time, but Kotkaniemi at number 2 center would have been, to me, a step way backwards. I think having Christian Dvorak in there, it's not as bad. Dvorak today is a better center iceman than Kotkaniemi is. If you look at the total goals, you lose Danault, you lose Tatar, and you bring in guys like Dvorak and Hoffman and these power play specialists. So in terms of what's coming in and what's going out, they get more goals. They actually get more offensive. If you can revitalize that power play, couple that with a strong defense and arguably one of the best goalie tens in the league, and the winger depth here is outstanding. You've got character. You've got probably a Calder candidate, probably a front runner. It's a great situation, and this team will find a way to win. It's how it's going to be. No one can look at that preseason game yesterday and take shit away from it. So Montreal will come third. They're going to lock it down, but they'll be in a battle for sure.
So you think they'll be able to play their playoff style hockey with regular season officiating?
To a degree. Okay. The same way the Islanders do really well in the regular season, they'll be able to do that to a lesser extent. Just in terms of shutting things down, clogging up, and just protecting that front of the goalie. So it'll be dependent on Price. He'll have to be very good, as he was all playoffs. That's why they got to the finals. But yeah, if he can do that, exactly. So if they can do that, then I think they're in a pretty good position in this tough division.
Yeah, my take on Montreal and Dominic Ducharme is I think that they do better when they're playing the same team over and over again. I think they do a really good job of game planning when they have a larger sample size. It'll be interesting to see if they can do it in an 82-game season where there will be travel, there will be new teams you have to play, and yeah, they're gonna have to play Tampa. How many times? 4 or 5 times. Good. They're gonna have to play teams like Toronto. They very well may be able to shut teams down, but Yeah, I'll be interested to see how Ducharme does in an 82-game season where you're not game planning against specific teams or for specific strategies.
Can I add one more thing that I forgot?
Yeah.
For that whole Magic run, they were spending $5.5 million on Jonathan Drouin and had 0 Jonathan Drouin.
Yep.
Jonathan Drouin will be back this year. As you know, he's had the mental health problems. It sounds like a lot of that is squared away. So if he's back to being a semblance of his old self, then you add, again, from that magical run roster, you're adding a Jonathan Drouin. And you're using that cap hit that he took up. So that's good too.
Yeah. I'm excited for the guy. I think, like, as a Leafs fan, I hope that the Canadians don't do well, but I think it'll be good to see Drouin come back, and I hope he succeeds after taking that time away. At number 3, I have Toronto. And that's a little bit of a homer take. I recognize that. But they're bringing back the same decor, and their top 4 forwards are really good. Nylander looks like he is like taking it seriously. He's ready to take that step forward. It sounds like they're going to deploy him more on the power play, which is a good sign. Austin Matthews was on pace at times last year with a broken wrist to score 50 goals in 55 games. Like that type of goal scoring is just outstanding. Mitch Marner, for all that he gets flack from the fan base, is a phenomenal playmaker and potentially playing on McKinnon's wing in the Olympics.
I think
right?
it's going to be an extra.
Yeah. But they need to figure out their power play. Goaltending will have that question mark. And they did go bargain shopping for depth forwards. So there are some question marks surrounding this team. At the end of the day, the core is still there. They're a great team. They're going to finish 3rd in this division. And I think like they make the playoffs. I would love to see them have to fight for it. I think this team has had the luxury of being able to walk into the playoffs the last couple of years. And I think a little bit of fight in the regular season would be a good thing. I'm with Nick on Morgan Riley. This guy, in my opinion, should have been named captain a couple years ago. Yeah. I think he personifies everything that was right with the Leafs culture up to that point. And I think letting him and Hyman go is a huge changing of the guard and not necessarily the direction that I would want to see this team go. So I hope they find a way to keep him. I think with the salary cap, realistically, it's not going to be possible. And I'd prefer to see him walk for nothing than see him traded because I would hate to see him. I know that defensemen are valuable, but I'd prefer to see him play out the rest of the season and have a chance of making it past the first round with this team.
So a couple more points on this. Are you guys are aware of that documentary that's coming out?
The Leafs one?
Yeah.
The Amazon one, yeah.
October
I saw the
1st,
trailer,
right?
yeah.
So that's going to be super interesting.
I was going to ask you if you're going to watch that.
Of course.
But you hate the team.
I would absolutely watch it.
Why?
Hockey fans all over the world will watch that. Because it's interesting. It goes into...
Aren't you scared that...
It goes into the foibles of the team.
But aren't you scared that, like, Austin Matthews has his fingers on the editing of that footage? And they're gonna...
sure. I think there's going to be some bias mixed in
there
and some tampering done.
I expect a lot of that.
But, I mean, like, you're going to get some raw stuff as well mixed in.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. I hope it gives... the more raw it is, the better.
So it's covering all of last year?
Yeah.
And
right up to the loss.
And it's, like, episodic, or do we get everything on October 1st?
I'm not sure.
I hope we get everything on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I'm curious how that'll... I don't see why they do episodic because like they've had time to like it's so you're covering last year. It's not like it's covering. It's not like HBO did when they did every week they had to edit the footage from the current season, right?
Yeah. So and then the idea of people keep bringing up the phrase "the last dance."
Yeah.
For the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Do you buy that or no?
I mean, it's over dramatizing what simply is. They better get it done or everyone's fucking gone.
Yeah.
Which is it's. I guess you can call that the last dance, but that's over dramatizing it.
There are 3 or 4 more years left on all of the Big Four's deals. If like this is to call it the last dance is this fan base is very invested, which is a great thing, but hypercritical and so starved for success that they are just being brutal as far as expectations and social media goes. And it's just one of those things where like there's 3 or 4 more years on a lot of these guys' deals. Muzzin and Brody are locked up for another 4 years each, I think. you've got some young players coming up who will keep the window open for the next 3 or 4 years. To call it the last dance is a little bit short-sighted, and it's people who don't recognize the reality of how hard it is to win in the NHL. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning were so good for so long before they won, and then they won twice in a row with teams where like they had to change how like the makeup of their third line to do it. There are teams that like the 2009 to 2013 Vancouver Canucks, I think won the President's Trophy twice, didn't win a cup. You can have huge periods of success, but the Stanley Cup is one of the most elusive trophies to win. So yeah, calling it the last dance is short-sighted, and the reality of hockey is sometimes it doesn't matter how good your team is, you just need the puck to bounce the right way.
I think the thing about Toronto that makes them unique in that comparison is that they of all those teams, they're probably the most underachieving team. Like they have like those teams that like Vancouver got to a final, Tampa Bay got to an Eastern Conference final. They haven't won a round since this amazing new crop of young talent, and perhaps they were marketed to be like over marketed in the beginning. Like this is the next generation, and all this nostalgia was thrown at them, and look at all this footage from the 60s of us being great, and here's these new guys. So marketing was over the top, and now they've never won a round. It just becomes a snowball effect, and that's probably why everything's been over dramatized. But I think the whole last dance thing is like if they don't do that thing this year, win a round, this core is being broken. It has to be. It just has to be.
I think Dubas has pushed his chips into the middle of the table and is all in for the next 2 or 3 years with this core. You do not win a Mitch Marner trade. You do not win a William Nylander trade. You do not win a John Tavares trade.
Running it back, though.
But so at the end of the day, though, like your core four, you're stuck with them. This is it. You can fill in the other pieces around. Morgan Rielly might go. You might have to find a different guy, but you are stuck with these core four, and that is something that as Leafs fans, don't drive them out of the city. Like you saw what Raptors fans did for Kawhi, and yes, he won a championship, but like that's why players want to play for the Raptors is because of how they're treated in the city. And for some reason, we vilify our hockey players. Austin Matthews is potentially the best Leaf to put on the jersey. Potentially.
Could be.
And we're going to drive him to Arizona in 4 years. Like, we'll rent the U-Haul and drive his stuff there ourselves. It's crazy. Leafs fans, it's a very passionate fan base, and that's great, but there are realities of hockey, and you're not going to win one of these trades, and you're just going to go back to the Ballard years of trading away your best players for nothing. If you think that you can tear apart this core.
I'll double down on my take and say that I don't like the core, and I'd be super pleased to see them go. That's just how I've been for 3-4 years.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing. That's no surprise to the listeners of the show. We've been there, right? We've talked about it enough. Like, if you don't like the core, how can you cheer for the team?
Exactly.
You could be born from Toronto. You could have cheered for them during the Sundin years and the and the year that they lost to Boston in that crushing 2013. But the core has changed.
And I was at Leaf Square for that very game.
Yeah, and I don't like the new core. And until it's in place, or until they show me they've changed, which I think is that's what I'm hoping for. I don't need them shipped out of town. If they show me they've changed and they have a winning culture, then and I see the character issues fixed, then yeah, I can forgive them. But right now, I'm 1 foot out the door. So. And
there are character issues, and that is magnified and sort of represented by the fact that Dubas had to last year get all these character guys just to fix the room, so to speak. Why did you get all these character guys?
I don't disagree.
We got great character guys. Like, why the fuck did you have to do that? And they're old enough now where you shouldn't need a fucking father figure to come in and fix the room. I don't know.
We got to wrap up here soon. So I'll give my 2 and I'll give my 1. Okay? We'll do that.
Yes.
Fine, I'll give my 2.
No. Just do both.
So I got Boston 2 because they are.
That's a hot take.
I don't think so.
I think it's a hot take.
I think so long as you have the top line, I think so long as Bruce Cassidy's still the head coach there, I think there's enough to give there. And I think Taylor Hall fit pretty well. I think, their top six always, their bottom six is always a struggle, but that's always the case there in Boston. Like that's always going to be the case. And you still got Charlie McAvoy, you still got Brandon Carlo, you still got Grzelcyk. Like the core there defensively is still there. Grzelcyk was hurt for like half the year last year. A healthy Grzelcyk for the year would do wonders in fantasy. That guy was a stud for me. The goalies is the big thing, right? Like, what is the status of Tuukka Rask, right?
Who knows?
I'm betting it's not that bad. If it is bad, Linus Ullmark's an underrated goalie in my mind. And he was one of those reasons in Buffalo that they were like winning games from time to time. And the fact he's gone.
And now he's not there. And
now he's not there.
Not there. And now Hall's not there.
Oh, but
my God.
the fact they let Ullmark walk just goes to show they want to tank. And so Ullmark's a good goalie, and Jeremy Swayman showed he's a top goalie prospect in the league. Like, but if I was reading like a Scott Wheeler top 10 goalie prospects the other day, and he had like the usual suspects, Askarov, Knight, Wallstead, all those guys in that kind of top tier. But Swayman was like just on the outside looking at him. So and he look at the numbers last year, they trusted him. They trusted him a lot. So I think Swayman, Ullmark, I think that's even without Rask, I think it's just fine. Like in fact, fantasy wise, I'll really want to get in on them if that stays the course, because it's a very unpredictable situation. But if you can get the right guy there, that if you draft the right guy, you could get huge dividends for that, because it's Boston. They're always going to play with their good structure. That top line's going to win them games. Like it is what it is. So. I still don't think I agree with your take, Mike. Like there's a changing of the guard, and it's going to happen soon. But I think they're still good here for another year, and I'm not ready to pull the chute just yet. So Boston number 2.
Do you want to do number 1 as well, or
defending champions? That's all I have to say. You're the best until you're beat, right? And that's it. So there you go.
Yeah. So my number 2 will be Florida. I just love what I see from this team in terms of just this balanced overall just roster. I think Sam Reinhart's going to have... Sam Reinhart was pacing 65 points in last year's Buffalo team. That's insanity at its finest. This guy can move to the center if need be, if Sam Bennett falters. He's natural on the wing as well. Barkov is poised for a great year, a huge year. Huberdeau has shown us to be a 90-plus point guy. You add a little bit of young talent in Owen Tippett. You have found money in Carter Verhaeghe, who was amazing last year as well. And you know what? What I go back to, Mike, is that last playoffs, obviously Tampa Bay is this world beater. But what was the team that gave Tampa Bay the most fits? It might have been Florida. Like that Tampa Bay-Florida series was like guns out, guns blazing. This is a crazy series. And that was without Aaron Ekblad. So you get Aaron Ekblad back. You have Weegar, who's massively underrated. And you have just a roster poised to be in a comfortable, safe spot in this Atlantic for me. And then the goaltending situation, probably going to be a tandem. Spencer Knight's a massively talented guy. If they can split starts there, I think that's going to be a plum situation. And then guys like Gudas on the back end, it's a great balanced roster. So I have a lot of excitement towards them. And Tampa Bay, defending champs, they're champs until they're not champs, right? They lost their whole third line, but I think their top guys are going to be good enough, especially your fucking Kucherov, you little shit, are going to be good enough to do really well. And I think they're just going to kind of set it on cruise control and take the top spot there.
At number 2 in the Atlantic Division, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ooh. So they lost their third line, and that was a huge component of their 2 winning cups. Their core 4, which I'm going to call core 5. Sorry, Kucherov, Point, Stammer, Hedman, and Vasilevsky are all still there, and Vasilevsky alone could win that team games. Mm-hmm. That he is the best goalie in the league without a doubt. But the rest of that team is strong. They continue to draft and develop so well. and they have put together a winning culture, a winning team, and they're gonna do great this year. The reason why I have them at 2 has more to do with my faith in the team I have at number 1, which is the Florida Panthers. Mm-hmm. I think the Florida Panthers this year win the President's Trophy.
Wow.
I love this team.
It's a good take.
I'm a huge fan of Quenneville as the coach. I think they're going to do a great job. Ekblad is back. They brought in Reinhardt, who, as you said, people were talking 2 years ago about Reinhardt being like, oh, when's he going to develop? When's he going to develop? And at that time, he was still putting up 40 points on a Buffalo team that had no business being in the league at that point.
Yeah.
They have only gotten better. If Spencer Knight is given the reins, they're going to do well. If Bobrovsky finds even a fraction of his former form, they're going to dominate. Yeah. And so I have a lot of faith in Florida. I have a lot of faith in Q. I really like what they've done there. Barkov is up for a big payday at the end of the season. So there's going to be a certain sense of urgency in the organization. And yeah, I think they win the Atlantic. I think they win the President's Trophy. And I'm really excited to see that happen.
Mm-hmm. That's a good take. I do like that. I could see that happening.
It's crazy how far we've cut, like all of us respectively. Well, yeah, you two interchangeably have Florida and Tampa there, right? You have Tampa 1, you have Florida 1. Yeah. It's crazy how far we've come that arguably the 2 President Trophy teams are in the state of Florida. Yeah. You know, pretty crazy.
That's shit.
For you, yeah. Not for Gary Bettman. He's laughing.
True.
But yeah, as Michael Robson closes his notebook, I think it's a sign that it's time to go here. This is always the most exhausting episode to do every year. I think we can agree on that.
We are 3.
It's yeah. I never like going into 3, but if there's one episode to do it, it's this one, right?
Sorry, folks.
Like you could break it up into 2 episodes, but
yeah,
we like to get everything done in one occasion, right?
See each other less is for the best.
Yes, of course. So yeah, there you have it. Our season preview spectacular to kick off the season 4 of the show. I gotta say, look forward to the song. Kyle and I still got to work on that, so that's a while to go. And then our final episode before the start of the season, it'll be the fantasy preview show with Joshua Schechter, as promised.
Oh boy.
And that's all I got to say as far as PSA. So Kyle, what do you got to say? What's before we say bye?
I thought it'd be cool to update the good old fans on some of the things that we're doing as a group. We're going to a few Ottawa Senators games. So we're going on October 22nd, Ottawa versus New York Rangers, which will be just a really awesome, fun trip. We're going to do a Kingston rip to see Shane Wright the day before, and we'll have tons of scouting from that game as well. December 4th, we're doing not our valiant host here because he has to go to some fucking Christmas party, but we're seeing Ottawa versus the Colorado Avalanche on December 4th. So that would be super, super fun. And I don't know why, but for some reason this year, there's a big excitement for me personally, just fantasy-wise and hockey season-wise. Like, it was such a great year last year, and I'm really excited to dive into it with hold on. Don't you? Oh, good. He's playing tonight. See, that's one of the reasons, man. Like, it's just so much excitement, and I'm excited to go into it with you guys and Joe and all that. I think we're going to have a really just a fun year.
There's so much to keep track. Like, it was one of the reasons we had to come back this year, just because there's too much going on. You have a once-in-a-lifetime hockey tournament in February.
Oh my
that's going to shake the hockey universe, right?
Like, we're gonna have Olympic takes every show.
I don't know how we're gonna watch these games because I was reading the schedule the other night. These games are at midnight and like 6 a.m.
So I'll tell you why that's good is thank God they're not at like 7 a.m, because then work will take us out of the game. I'm willing to watch games at midnight. Also, if need be, I'm willing to record games, turn off my phone for the day, meet up at night, and get it done.
I know.
That way.
I'm just saying, like, I think the Canada-US game, like, because they're in the same group, is a midnight start.
Perfect.
And I think
sacrifice
if there's a gold medal game, I think it's a 9 a.m. start. So that sucks.
So I'll take off work.
Yeah.
Like, I will not miss a game.
I know.
I cannot. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
I know.
This is like Gretzky playing with me.
I know. I know. You got to use one of your work days off. You just got to cash it in.
Yeah. And I'll be a zombie the next day. The only problem there is we won't be able to fucking yell and scream. We'll figure something out. We'll soundproof the basement. We'll do
We'll
something.
figure it out. I got new accommodations coming this week. There's a theater room.
Oh,
It's incredible.
Yes.
We'll elaborate on that as we go on here. So yeah, that's the plan.
So that's going to be outstanding.
Yeah,
Just-
salient point
and-
being
and another big point. Your boy, Shane Wright and Brant Clark are both going to be head manning this World Junior team, and it's going to be a blast. Like, this is going to be Shane Wright's coming out party for the world, the masses, right?
Mhm.
So
big tournaments in December and February.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Great year for hockey.
It just sucks you back in.
I know. Like, I'm going to leave here excited to dive into the news and get ready for tonight's game. I'm going to be watching the preseason game like it's a playoff game.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of being early in the year, right?
Yeah. Okay. So with that said and all that excitement, we say goodbye. Tune in for our next episode, the fantasy preview. You'll get all our little tidbits as to who to target in your drafts. Ours is coming up in a week's time. We'll give you the results from that one. And until then, thanks for tuning in again. This is season 4. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.
Perfect.